So we haven't tested your loudness now, but I will check the live stream, and if it is not too quiet, I will.
Okay.
I write you then in Discord.
Right, how are we looking sound-wise? Oh, we are live. Like, properly live, public. Great.
Yeah, that's great.
Could have done this on another stream. Anyway, THR Endurance 2.4 hours. I need to mute my... That's really distracting. Anyway, welcome everybody to the THR Endurance 2.4 hours, I should say. So we're looking 2 hours and 20-something minutes. This is going to be a very special event that you're going to witness tonight. We have got approximately 5 different servers all competing to take the crown here. We've got, of course, the people who are hosting tonight's event, THR Racing, as well as the America's Simracing League, the Classic Vintage Racers, the Vertula Asphalt server, as well as the VAC Vintage Appreciation Community. Majority, around half of the entrants are coming from THR Racing, but we've got 9 from VAC, 3 from VA, 3 from CVR, and 3 from ASRL. Tonight is going to be a very amazing event no matter what happens. We're coming up to the end of final practice now, and we should see the race begin shortly. 3 different cars participating tonight. That is the Ferrari 330, the Porsche that you're seeing on screen now, and the car that Porsche is chasing, the Ford GT40. Looking for the cars, they are balanced, however that's done through fuel. The Porsche gets very sideways there, coming out of the 90-degree right-hander. But anyway, looking at the Ford, it's pretty poor at low speeds, but it's stronger in the high and mid-speed sections. It's the quickest car in a straight line, so we'll be sure to take advantage down the long straight to just simply draft ahead of everybody else. Next up, the Porsche, it's the complete opposite really. It's stronger at low speeds, but because of that it's weaker in the higher and the mid-speed corners. However, it does make up a little bit with the, well, between all the 3 cars, the Porsche is considered the average or the median in the top speed bracket. We're looking at about 307 kilometers an hour without a slipstream, compared to the Ford's looking at 322. But moving on to the Ferrari, that's down at 294, and we're only seeing 312 with a slipstream. However, the Ferraris, this is the older layout of Le Mans, so you don't quite have all the proper Porsche curves like we do today, but there are some very heavy braking zones, and that Ferrari really doesn't struggle with brake fade like the Ford does. The Ford struggles, or should expect it to be struggling, with very poor brake fade. As we see a lot of smoke there coming from the blue, yellow and black Ford GT40. Another way, as I was saying, that the cars are balanced is through the fuel load. So the Porsche can only take 100 litres of fuel, however it's by far the most conservative with its fuel load. So it's only looking at about 5.5 litres a lap on race pace, and that's compared to 8 litres a lap from the Ford GT40 and 10 litres a lap from the Ferrari. So we're going to be hopefully looking at the Ferraris pitting first, but obviously we've still got to get through the first half of the lap before the straight, and with 35 people here scheduled to come tonight, we could see anything happen on that first lap. But going through, talking about the 35 people, we've actually got a very wide variety here. So it's 2 drivers per team, and that's teams, as I've said, across 5 different communities. So that's THR Racing, the America's Simracing League, CVR, VA, and the Vintage Appreciation Community. All very, very different backgrounds, mostly obviously coming from the Vintage, but they're not always racing this Endurance Le Mans stuff. So it should be a very, very spectacular event tonight from what we're going to witness. Okay, so we're just waiting on the final cars now to come on through. It looks like it's Valentin Knichel in the Porsche is still out on track. So we're just getting some audio settings finalised here. But as I've said, let's go a little bit over the drivers, shall we? If I can get the entry list up wherever I've put that somewhere in a safe place. There it is. So from THR in the number 4 Ford GT40, we've got Margar and Pitman. They're running for the TH Bullets team. Have I got that right? Yes, I have indeed. Then coming up next, they were the first to get entered into this event, I should say, as we've got a very, very long entry list here, so it'll probably be worth to go through it throughout the race. But there's a good variety of cars here. We're looking mainly at a grid of Porsches. As I've said, the Porsche is the worst on fuel. It's using 10 litres a lap. No, it's not. Sorry, I do apologise. It's the best on fuel. So we're looking at 5.5 litres per lap compared to the Ferrari. So it's quite interesting to see that people are leaning towards the fuel consumption over outright pace, as maybe you can be a little bit more favourable in that regard. But next up, we've got 12 Ford GT40s. And then there's 5 Ferraris. So not many people opting for that handling advantage and the general sort of car drivability advantage. It's looking at a very long pit stop as well in that Ferrari because it just uses so much fuel. But once again, every car's got its pros and its cons, so the brakes are very, very immune to fading in the Ferrari, so we should be able to see the Ferraris brake a lot later at the end of the long straight. And it's really going to be an interesting balance to see where the cars come up. So if we're looking for the Ford, that's really just going to be a case of pure straight line speed. And if we're looking at the Porsche, it's going to kind of be a little bit of everything. But the Ferrari's really going to be able to take advantage in the corners, under braking, and probably if there's going to be a car or a battle for a position that's going to go on throughout the lap, yeah, the other two cars might be able to make a bit of an advantage in a straight line. But if that Ferrari sat in the slipstream, it's not going to be a million miles off. And when we get to the end of that long straight, then surely, you know, it's going to be able to make that ground back up, and with the better handling around the back half of the track, it should be able to make the time up. So we should be able to see some good games of cat and mouse throughout this race between the 3 different cars. So on pole, by the looks of things, is going to be the Meister Jaeger in the number 9 Ford GT40. Qualifying was done throughout the week, as far as I'm aware. So drivers had the opportunity to go out and set as many laps as they want throughout the week. And the fastest time over that weekend got the pole position. So it's the number 9 Ford GT40 on pole position.
No. Hey, Microrain. I'm also Neil Pittman from THR. I sent you the a sheet of the qualifying we had this week. So on number 1, it's Goodsmile Racing and Felix 789. I sent it over in Discord to you. So maybe.
Oh yes, sorry. I do apologise. Okay. You can tell
no
I'm
problem.
very, very, very prepared for this event.
So, of course, I have already interrupted here. At first, thank you very much for having you here today, for doing the commentary for this race. It's great. It's awesome. And I just wanted to say, just right before the start, it was an incredible ride this week to setting all this up with 32 teams, with 64 drivers on track. So many questions around the whole event to get everything going on every client. But we did it. Now we are short before the race. We had some practice races yesterday. that were great. Found some issues there, but we were able to solve them. And now we're looking forward to this race. I'm not sure because most of the time I'm in THR since 3.5 years, but I haven't heard of a bigger vintage sim racing event in the last couple of years. 64 drivers on tracks, it's an awesome number, and it only worked because 5 communities race together here, and that's pretty awesome. Yeah, so we are looking forward to the race, and I hope everything goes works fine. For myself, I had no time to practice, so I expect nothing. Yeah, but that's it. So I don't want to interrupt you anymore, but maybe we can do a small interview later about THR or something like that. But the stage is yours now.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. And it's definitely, as Pitman said, it's really going to be an event to remember, and it's going to be an event to enjoy while it lasts, because this is truly something special that's not going to be something organised week in, week out. This is really, as far as sim racing goes, probably in the vintage community, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, event of the year so far, held on Assetto Corsa. But anyway, I'll now go through the correct qualifying order, as I've now got access to that. So we're looking at Felix 789 and Good Smile Racing in the Ford GT40. On pole position in the number 37 car. He's part of the VAC community, but he was closely followed by 0.6 of a second by Meister Jaeger and Porsche in their Golf Ford GT40. Then it was Riley Gallardo and Nolly in the Ken Miles GT40, the number 1 car, I believe that is. So it's the top 3 cars of Ford GT40s. Then it's Goldbach and Timo in the 908 Langheck, the 2.4 car, managing to get the car in 4th. So that's the first of the Porsches. And they were 1.1 seconds behind the GT40s over pure lap pace. In 5th position, it was Ward and Lindholm. They were also running a Porsche, but that was 0.4 once again off of the Porsche of Timo, and that was about 1.5 seconds off the pole time from Felix. But we should be seeing the race get underway here now shortly, so let's hope that everybody can get off the line cleanly. It's not going to be a particularly standard start, as we all know the classic Le Mans. Run across the side of the track, jump in the car, and away you go. But here we go then, the THR 2.5 or 2.4 hours of Le Mans is underway. You can see Valentin Knitschel there in the Porsche 908 making contact with the Ford GT40 as Felix 789 gets away, and we've got a stop-go penalty already for Hayward. Not sure what car he's running in, but currently it's Ford GT40 123 as we all head down into the first left-hander of the track. It's the number 37 car in the lead, followed by the number 9 and then the number 1. All Ford GT40s holding position. Then it's a strong field of about 4 or 5 Porsches now for the positions after them as they head onto the back straight for the first time. Heading down was once again, we've got a Ferrari off in the background and he tags one of the Porsches and everyone's scrambling to avoid, but the majority of the pack have made it through cleanly on this first opening lap, so it's still Ford GT40s 1, 2, 3, but they've got a field of Porsches following closely behind as we watch now. It's still looking as if no one's really managed to take advantage of the slipstream yet, or am I wrong? That looks like Timo in the 908. It's not Timo, sorry, I do apologise, that's Ward in the 908. He's managed to pull alongside Riley Gallardo, but now he's got to duck back in the slipstream as that Ford's so quick in a straight line. You can see the Ford's still even edging a little bit of a gap while the Porsche's in the slipstream, but that Ford's really going to struggle under braking. So it'll be interesting to see what the Porsche can achieve as we get onto the end of the straight, but that Ford is very, very quick in a straight line. Obviously, they're all giving themselves a tow down the straight. We've got Felix in first by 0.5 second, Riley Gallardo in third. He's 0.3 of a back off to second place of Meister Jaeger. And here comes the Porsche. You can really see the extra braking ability there as we head into the right-hander at the end of the straight. As the leaders manage to go wide, the number 37 car, that is of Felix 789, as that breaks himself on the first lap, and that hands the lead to Meister Jaeger. And we've got another Porsche off in the background. That's really not ideal. A lot of the Ferraris getting caught up. You see a Ford GT40 there on the wrong side of the banking. So many cars now overshooting their braking zone, but the majority of them have managed to keep it all together. Oh, the Ferrari and a Porsche in the background once again make contact as they're all trying to gather positions as much as they can here on the opening lap, and it's really intense. So currently it's now Ford, Porsche, then another Ford followed by a Porsche, and that train of Porsches, Valentin Knichel in the number 92 Porsche has also managed to hold on to the back of the group quite well, as we see Ward here managing to get a slightly better drive out of the corner than the GT40, but we've seen how quick that GT40 is in a straight line without the slipstream. So what can the Porsche do? We know the GT40 is not great through the corners, so it'll be interesting to see, is the Porsche going to make the move, or is he going to try and wait? Dipping two wheels on the grass there a little bit, just to try and keep the nose clean out of the dirty air. Obviously there's not too much going on in these cars, because there's no real downforce, it's mostly mechanical grip. It's just how slick could you make the car. Look how close they're cutting that. Meisterjäger in front, dropping two wheels on the grass to use as much track as possible, but the Porsche's really sticking with him this time. As we head down the home straight, what can the Porsche do into the first corner? He's definitely closing up. He's only about a car length and a half, maybe 2 car lengths now as we head around the first corner. We should see him close right up. You know that Porsche's got the little extra wing on the back, the little bit of extra air as they come under the Dunlop bridge. The cars compress and he goes to the inside, but he's gonna back out of it. He knows that the GT40 is going to be quicker in a straight line, so why try and waste the move when you know that he's just going to put your foot down to the bulkhead and drive past in a straight line? But it's still Ford, Porsche, Ford, then a bundle of Porsches behind. As Ward runs a little bit wide, but manages to keep it all together, clipping the rear wheel on the banking. But now it'll be interesting to see what Riley Gallardo can do in his Ford GT, because he's got the extra straight line speed. As I said earlier, we're still looking at an advantage for the Fords. I'll be able to tell you how much shortly. The Fords are looking at about 322 kilometers an hour without the slipstream, but the Porsches is really looking at about 20, maybe 10-15 kilometers an hour less than that. You can see Riley's now really pulling in Meisterjäger in, not Meisterjäger, sorry, the number 10 Porsche of Ward, and he just manages to drive straight past him in a straight line. It'll be interesting to see as we go back to Savano. He's in the Ferrari. Not many people running the Ferrari, only 5 cars, but he's really up there, and we've got quite a close pack here. So it'll be great to see them all trundle down into the right-hander at the end of the straight. Too wide, but the white Ferrari thinks better of it, drops back into the slipstream. As we've really got quite a widespread pack here. Already some cars in the pits, but Scott B and Sepnan, they're quite a way back. Maybe lap 1 instance is their finger against too wide, but Savona rightly backs out of it just to preserve. You know, you've still got 2 hours and 20 minutes left in this race. As we saw another move here, I missed that. Oh, is that Valentin Knichel in the 92 car? Not 100% sure. No, it's one of the other Porsches. Managed to loop it coming out of the chicane, and we've now got a very, very close battle here for 4th place. This is Valentin Knichel now. He's right on the back, and you can see that contact maybe must have been between Riley Gallardo and the other Porsche, or maybe the other Porsche was just in the way of Riley and he couldn't get the drive off the corner. Because that's really the first time that we've seen a Porsche manage to actually drive or out-drag a GT40 in a straight line. But the number 37 car qualified on pole position. He's now fighting his way back through the field after running wide on lap 1 out of the chicane. He's now got past the number 60 Porsche, and he's right on the tail of the number 1 car of Riley Gallardo. So is there going to be any Ford team tactics here? Or is it just going to be an all-out battle? Of course, they're not racing for the same team, just using the same chassis. So, you know, is he going to look, or is he just going to stay behind? He is thinking about it. But personally, I would just wait for the straight or a straighter piece of road. It's really not worth the risk. You've got to try and get the most out of your exit on this left-hander here to slingshot yourself onto the main straight, and that looks like that's what Felix has done as he pulls alongside Riley, and Riley's probably going to duck back in the slipstream. I don't think he's going to have enough momentum to stay alongside as we head into turn 1. I might be wrong. No, there he goes. He dips back under the rear end of the GT40 as they power around the first corner. And currently it's Meisterjäger in the GT40 out front. He's got a 1.5 second gap over Ward in his Porsche, the number 10 car. So currently it's a 9:10. Then the 22 car of Goldbach and Timo, they're running in third. Then it's Holler in his Porsche, and then it's Felix, who was the pole sitter, but unfortunately round wide. It's closely followed by Riley Gallardo after he cleared him previously on the home straight. So we see the number 60 car there really get loose coming out of the corner. Let's watch all of the cars fly past now. So some very, very good battles coming out here. For a few laps in the Ford GT40, closely followed by the Porsche there, so it'll be interesting to see in the slipstream, but it looks like the highest positioned Ferrari is the white one that's just in the bottom of your screen now. That might be the number 22 car of Flasher, maybe. He's running in, it is indeed, Flasher is currently the highest. No, I lie, it's Bibber in the number 59 Ferrari seems to be the highest placed car at the moment. Or the highest placed Ferrari, I should say. It's late, you have to forgive me. But even back through the field, we've got the green car here that we were following earlier. That's of Savano. He's all over the rear end of the number 506 Porsche. Just trying to find a way past. Obviously, the Ferrari really isn't that strong in a straight line, but if he can keep it in the slipstream, he should be able to match that Porsche, as the Porsche is quite a way behind to really make any sort of, or quite a way in front, I should say, to really make any sort of difference to the run that the green Ferrari here is going to get. So you can see the number 506 cars diving to the inside, but what can that Ferrari do? We know the Porsche is good on the brakes. The Ferrari is going to go to the outside. He's stepped 2 wheels onto the gravel, and that's him going to go straight on. Oh, he manages to keep it all together, but really not an ideal line here. So let's go back to Holler in the 92 car. He's only 0.1 of a second now behind Riley Gallardo as he looks to the inside. Not an overtaking point you really expect, and they make contact, and that's Riley Gallardo into a spin. And it looks like he collected the number 60 car there of Stevenson. And now that's allowed the car of Nash, I believe, to get ahead. I don't think the timing's up. No, Nash is in the GT40, I do apologise. That's Jacob in the number 95 Porsche who's managed to get ahead. It was a very, very desperate kind of late move from Holler. That's really not a move you'd be making with 2.25 hours left in the race, in my opinion, but it's definitely keeping everything exciting. So let's put Jacob Briarava up into 6th place in the 95 number Porsche. But it's still Meisterjäger out in the lead. But Ward is really closing that gap down now. He was about 1.5 seconds. Now he's got it down to... oh, I say that. What's happened at the front of the grid? It seems like we just had a little bit of a timing error here. The Miller car, for some reason, put itself into first position. But anyway, the last lap from Meisterjäger in the Ford GT40, that's the number 9 Golf car that we're watching now, was a 3:29.1. And Ward in Porsche was a 3:28.6, so he's caught him about 0.6 of a second through the last lap, and that does tell if he was 1.5 seconds behind. And now he's closed that gap down to under a second. And that slipstream is really going to help him out in a straight line. I don't think any moves are really going to be able to be made unless Meisterjäger gets a very sloppy exit, but he seems to have laid the power down quite nicely, and that's allowed him to be able to really suck under the rear end of that GT40 now, as he's 0.2 of a second behind. That Porsche is not hanging about. We need to look on Ward, not Meisterjäger here, and he's going to go for it in a straight line. Maybe the Ford is using 8 litres a lap now compared to the 5.5 litres of the Porsche. Maybe he's just doing a little bit of fuel conserving. I'm not 100% sure. But you can see the GT40 just puts his foot down and drives back past. You know, the Porsche can get the slingshot in the slipstream, but there's really not that much the Porsche can do. So obviously, he's got to try and overtake him. I don't think a straight line is going to be his place to do it. Don't forget there's another straight after the right-hander. He's looking to the inside. He rightfully backs out of it, but he keeps very, very close to the rear end. But this is going to be the part where he's going to get the move done. He goes to the inside And we've seen through the first lap how much later the Porsche can brake, and we should be able to see it again here. It's just an easy move. He can move back over to the left of the track, cut the car in nicely for the corner, and he does run a little bit deep. That'll be interesting to see. What can Meisterjäger do now coming out of the corner? Is he going to be able to try and take advantage of that? But that Porsche, surprisingly, is not doing too bad under acceleration. I expected the Ford to catch up a little bit there, but maybe Meisterjäger didn't get too good of a run at the corner either. But Ward did run a little bit deep, did have a little bit of a scruffy exit. Now you can see the Ford's reeling him back in a little bit, but we're going into another braking zone, and that Porsche is going to be able to break them a few car lengths later, and that's just going to allow him to gain that little bit of extra advantage. And now we're in the slow twisty stuff, and the Ford really doesn't like that. You can see him using the throttle there. You can probably hear it as well. I can't, unfortunately, but you can hear him use the throttle to rotate the car, and that Porsche has already pulled half a second, maybe a little bit more than that really, about a second there, just in the two corners. But now that Porsche in the lead doesn't have the slipstream that it had before, and we should be expecting to see it about 15 kilometers an hour slower down the main straight. So it really depends how much Meisterjäger can hook the car up to try and get back as much time as possible before that straight, to be in a situation where he can just put his foot down and drive past him again. That Porsche should be able to run a little bit longer on fuel than the Ford, so maybe Meisterjäger's fuel saving, I don't really know, but either way he's really pushing the limits there, and he actually managed to gain a bit of time back. So we're looking now, looking at the live timing, we should be able to see Ward come over the line shortly, and his last lap was a 3:27.0, and we're looking at a 3:28.9 from Meisterjäger, so he was nearly 2 seconds faster on that single lap. But you can see just how much more speed, and when the Ford builds up the momentum, it can really use it in the high speed stuff. And he's called back about 0.8 of a second just from the final corner, but he runs it very wide. How he kept it out of the wall there, I really don't know, but you can see that the Porsche in front can put the power down a little bit better and out the corner. But we're already coming up to back markers, and we've only been racing for about 15 minutes. So the Porsche should be able to benefit a little bit from the back marker, but the Ford's a second and a half down as we come onto the back straight. So it'll be very interesting to see how close that gap is by the end of the straight. But anyway, let's go to a battle that's pretty close. Let's have a look at Massey. He's in the number 60 Porsche, so he's dropped quite a way back again. Oh no, it's another number 60 Porsche, I do apologise. That was Stevenson, who had the contact with Riley Gallardo earlier on. But he's currently doing all he can to try and stay in the slipstream of the Ford GT40 in front. And that is Malero. He's in the ASRL car, and weaving all over the straight, really. You'll have to ignore that on the side of the screen, not 100% sure what's going on there. But that is... not 100% sure what's going on the right hand side of the screen there. That is outside of my control, I am afraid. I see what's going on. We've got the time of day graphic now coming up, because although this is a 2.4 hour race, from what I can tell on that time guide there, we're going to have a full day-night cycle. This is something I was completely unaware of. The wonders of rocking up half an hour before and just giving it a go. But anyway, let's go back to that lead battle, shall we? Meiger Yeasters closed the gap down now to 0.9 of a second, but you've got to remember that he had to brake at the end of that straight, and we've already seen that the Porsche can just cruise straight past it under braking. So, you know, he's holding the gap well enough, but we saw last time round that the Porsche was able to pull a second, so we were 0.9 behind coming into this section. But Meisterjäger is really, really on the tail. He's using as much track as he can, really throwing this Ford GT40 about. But it hooks it up quite well, but you can see we're 0.9 behind, now we're 1.7 behind. And that's just one medium speed corner and 2 low speed corners. And it really, really shows how much the Ford dislikes that. It's more interested in the higher speed corners where it can really, you know, put itself to its use. You know, the one of the two main advantages that the car's got is sheer straight line speed and the ability to corner at that high speed when necessary. Now the Porsche is pretty strong, as we can see in the lower speed stuff, but it really depends how much Meister can push it up, as that Porsche is looking like the stronger car at the moment. But let's go back here to the second of the Porsche cars. He's currently chasing the pole sitter, which was Felix 789 in the number 37 car, as we pass a couple cars that are already in pit lane further back. So he seems to have managed to get a slightly better exit out of the final corner. You can see he's cutting the car in earlier than the GT40, but he is going to run out wide. You can see what the Ford's doing. He's trying to get a later apex to try and carry the speed. As he goes down under brakes, you can see the Porsche just wants to turn a little bit more. It's so much more planted than that Ford. You could see the four-wheel slide through the left-hander just before we went through the right as we come under the second Dunlop bridge onto the back straight. I don't think we're going to be able to see an overtaking manoeuvre here, but we've seen that the Porsche is quite good on acceleration. It just lacks on top end. As we're slowly catching up to the 37 car, you know. We really are. As we go up into fourth gear, 8,000 RPM before we go up into fifth. I'm not sure how many gears the Ford has. I believe it's only 4, but I could be wrong. I don't really know, I'll be completely honest. But you can just see, sat in the slipstream, we're close enough, but the Ford GT40 is just edging that little bit further away. It's quite a tough one, really, because it's how close can you get. You know, you've got to try and get your gearing right so you're quick enough where you haven't got a slipstream, but you've got to have enough top end as to where you're not banging the limiter. And that kind of seems what Goldback's doing. It's a little bit of a lift through the right-hander, but you can see we're 0.7 of a second back before the braking zone. We're 0.8 now, so let's see how close that gets as we head into the apex. You can see it's coming down, but it's not really come down actually. There we go, 0.7 it was. The load time was a little bit slow. It actually seemed like he held quite decent, really. The Ford GT40 was not doing too bad on the braking whatsoever, but you've got to remind yourselves that this was the pole sitter by over half a second. So he's really hooked the car up. And that's not, you know, there were 3 Fords in the top 3, but the first one was half a second up the road, I believe. Let me have a quick check, I'll be able to tell you. Yeah, it was 0.6 of a second up the road from Meister, who's currently running in second, 1.6 off the lead. And he was almost a second ahead of Riley Gallardo, who was involved in an incident early on with Holler. I'm not 100% sure where they've ended up, actually. They've ended up 8th at the moment. Actually, as I say that, they've dropped down to 9th. So let's have a look at that battle. It's a battle with another GT40. This is Malero in the ASRL car. What number are they? They are 117, I believe. Where are the numbers? Where are the numbers? That's a good question. I don't know. It is what it is. But anyway, we're slowly rolling into night now. It's 6 o'clock in the evening. What kind of time of year we've got this event set up at, I don't know. So that's going to depend on what time the sun sets and the sun rises. Run the event in the summer, you're going to have more daylight. Run it in winter, you're going to have a longer stretch in the night. But, as I say, we've been riding on board with Riley Gallardo. There's a car behind, that is Jaganika and Neo in the number 10, not the number 10, sorry. It's a 908 running in 10th, so it was a very slow 908 there, and that compromised Riley Gallardo's exit severely. And is this going to be one of the few times in the race, it might indeed be, where we're going to see a Porsche 908 out-drag a GT40, but Riley's going to have that inside line. He's going to back it up, which I don't blame him, so he's going to try and back the car off and slingshot the car out the corner, and maybe try and fight back under braking as they both fly under the Dunlop bridge, almost side by side. But the Porsche is going to be able to brake that little bit later, get the car turned in nicely. But is he going to have the slipstream off of the car in front? As I don't think... Well, it might actually, yeah, it is, isn't it? It's Malero and the other GT40, all very sideways there, coming onto the home straight, or the back straight. But that's not going to do him any favours whatsoever. And this should be a case of GT40 just simply pressing the accelerator pedal and driving past, but he has dropped about a second off now, and you've got to remember that Porsche is going to have the slipstream of the GT40 in front. It's quite a good little battle here. This is for 8th place. T4 GT40s and the Porsche. The GT40 of Riley Gallardo is 1.1 seconds off, and they are currently set around 302 kilometers an hour, 305. So they're slowly building the speed up. So if we hop onto the Porsche, we should be able to see they're holding around 305. So we're looking at about a 5 kilometer an hour difference at the moment, and that's really going to start getting an advantage if Riley can get in the slipstream. But we're already coming up to the end of the straight now. And as I've said multiple times, we know how good the Porsche is on the brakes. So there's not much he's going to be able to do apart from get the car stopped early, cut it into the corner well, and just try and power out of the exit. But he managed to pull the gap down to half a second, but we're going to see that gap grow as we break into the corner. He's up to about 0.8 now, as Riley runs a little bit deep, but it's not exactly a clean corner from the car in front either, and he's managed to gain a little bit of time. But anyway, it'll be interesting to come back to this battle. It's definitely going to be one to keep an eye on. So let's head back over to Goldback Timo. He's in the second of the Porsches. Obviously leader is Ward. He's had quite an easy race so far. It's been definitely one that's gone in his favour. And he's managed to really just take quite good advantage of it. He's holding a consistent gap of 2 seconds. Whether he's having to push that much to get that gap, I can't really tell you. But we will have a look at lap times next time around, just so we can gauge an idea of what everyone's doing. Because last time round, or when Ward took the lead and he did that one really quick lap, he was in the 27s. It was a 27 flat, and last time round, pretty much everyone was everyone in the top 6 was a mid 28 or mid to high 28. It was only Felix in the Ford GT40 who managed to get that time down. Actually, coming up and looking at Felix, he's having to deal with some back markers here, and he's splitting them. I'm not... that wasn't very clever. that really wasn't very clever. Whoever that was, we got quite a good view of it nonetheless, but he's coming up on the number 79 car. That's another Ford GT40. Let's go back to here. I'm really not sure what happened there. It definitely wasn't a smart move. But Felix managed to keep it all together. Very, very good credit to him. As the Porsche behind of Goldback manages to get past the back marker as well. It's the number 29 for GT40. That seems to be Flying Tiger, the ASRL car, running down in 32nd at the moment. Riley Gallardo pulls into the pit lane, so I believe he's going to be one of the first proper stops. I don't think this is going to be a driver swap yet, but it's definitely one of the first Ford pit stops, whether that's to repair some damage, because obviously he had the collision early on with the number 60 car of Stevenson, if I remember correctly. So maybe it's to repair that. But as I'm on about that, speaking of GT40s, Meisterjäger has got within half a second of Ward in the Porsche in front. Now, we should really only be looking about... oh, look at that! He was all crossed up coming around the right-hander there, and it seems like he's got the lead. But what can he do against that Porsche's brakes? The Porsche is going to look to the inside. He's going to absolutely chuck it down. How's he going to run too deep? One way to find out as they come into the corner now. We've been racing for nearly half an hour and it's still intense at the front. The Ford's half a second behind as they come out the corner. That's your third place car in the background there, the number 37 Ford GT. He's closely followed by Goldback in the number 22 car. He's about 2.5 seconds behind. So the top 5 really within about 10-15 seconds of each other, which over half an hour is not too shabby considering everything that's happened. Riley Gallardo's out of the pits, and that's put him down to 19th. So we'll have to watch him as everybody else pits, see how much ground he makes, as I believe he was 8th when he came into the pits or something. He was around the Malero Jegunica Neo people, so I think that was around 8th or 9th. It was definitely within the top 10. I'm sure I'm completely wrong, but you never know. Second and a half now, Meister Jaeger. How many laps we're on? That's a good question. That is a good question. How I can find that out, I don't know. It looks like we're on lap 7, so we should still be seeing a fair few amount of laps until pit. So why Riley pitted so early on, I'm going to presume is because of damage. And maybe the car was driving a bit off pace. He did seem to be swallowed up quite easily, and the Porsche was able to keep up and get past him in a straight line. So yeah, it was most likely due to damage, I'm going to guess, because it was the right-hander before you go into the left before where the Porsche curves are now. The number 60 car of Stevenson had to go down the inside and they made contact, and that caused Riley to spin round. And I believe he got collected by the 92 car of Holler when trying to sort everything out as well. But one car that's definitely not going to have a slipstream is the number 10 car of Ward. So he's 1.6 seconds back, Meister Jaeger, coming onto the straight. Make that 1.7, as obviously the Porsche has already gained that little bit of time because he's ahead on the track, so he's further accelerating back onto the straight. So we've got a 1.8 second gap, and we're really only going to see much difference when we get into that top kilometre-an-hour range, when we hit about the 300 kilometre-an-hour range and all that sort of stuff. So it should be a case of, I don't have a full view of the stream here, I'm afraid, but it should be a view of, yes, sorry, I'm having a few stream difficulties here, I'm seeing other stuff on the screen, so, give me 1 second. Anyway, we seem to be back on my end now, and as I was saying, that gap was 1.6 seconds before the straight, and now the Fords have the advantage of the slipstream at the top end. We see him get up into the 320 km/h range and just drive past in a straight line. But it's the same old story, the Porsche is the better car on the brakes, and you can see they're both strolling now into the corner, and the Fords managed to hook up quite a nice little exit there. 0.4 of a second behind. Where are they going to be? The straight's nowhere near as long, and the Porsche has a very similar acceleration curve as the Ford. The Ford's just that little bit better at cutting through the air, and really does it better at top end. So this straight I really don't think is long enough for the Ford to come in on its own. It's only really from this section here you're going to see the Ford gain time, but by the time it's gained that time, it's already lost it again because it's back on the brakes. You can see the Porsche is just the more eager car to turn in. It really just wants to be thrown around, and it'll grip up with the rear tyres, but the Ford seems to be a lot more of an aggressive car you have to drive to make it do what you want to do. Oh, but there goes Ward, spun it under brakes, and that's him over the banking. Maybe the pressure just got to him. Is that going to be him stuck? He's going to have to reverse it down. Let's see where he rejoins. Who have we got coming through? This is Holler in the number 92 car. He's cleared them all. And that's him still dropped down. What is next? That's Stevenson. So he rejoins in 6th place in front of Stevenson. So a really poor error there from Ward that's cost him dearly. He's going to lose a lot of time. And yet again, he's going to lose even more momentum here. Stevenson is now going to be right on the rear end of Ward. So Ward's going to really have to start putting in some interesting, aggressive times to try and make back up. But it's a lot of Porsche territory here. So it's currently 4GT40 running first and second, almost how it was in qualifying, just the 2 positions reversed with a 5-second gap. But from there down, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th is all Porsches, and I believe it's Malero who's the next car. He's just coming through the final corner now, so he's not a million miles away. He is the next Ford in 8th, so it's a very strong showing from the Porsche team, or the Porsche cars I should say, the early stages of the race. I don't think we've had really any DNFs so far. It's just been a case of small incidents and inconveniences that have really offset people and juggled the positions around. Speaking of people that had their positions juggled around, Riley Gallardo He's managed to get himself up to 18th place after struggling early on with a collision and suffering with damage. But he's not doing too badly now, slowly working his way back up the ground, but he's got 14 seconds to the car in front, so he's got lots of nice clean air to work with to just try and put in some consistent lap times. Last time round, he was a 4:13, so he really didn't have much luck last time, actually. So not sure what happened there, because everybody else is in the 3-minute 30s. But anyway, I should probably look back what's going on the screen. We've just had Ward there get past I don't think it's the number 60 car. I think that's the... Oh, maybe that's a back marker, I should say. Maybe that is a back marker, yeah, the blue Porsche. So that wasn't full position, I'm afraid. It might be the number 66 car of Scott B. Can't actually tell you, because I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely one of the back marker cars. It's still the number 10 car in 6th place, and the number 60 car, which is Stevenson, in 7th, who is the car behind the blue cars. Hopefully everybody gets their braking under control, and the blue Porsche lets the number 60 car through properly. As we saw a lock up there from Stevenson a little bit further back, but everyone seems to have got through quite nicely. Yeah, let's see if it is a number 66 car. It's not the number 66 car, that's a Ferrari. I was looking for something else with a blue icon, but this is Scott B. He's one of the few Ferraris that are running, and we're coming on to, or the leaders are on lap 9. So we should be seeing the Ferraris pit within the next 5 to 6 laps. But let's have a look at Costco. He's quite a far way back in the pack. He's running 19th at the moment, but he's caught up to Bibber in the Ferrari. As I say, one of the few Ferraris that are running tonight. I believe there's only 5 of them. So you can see, though, that we're slowly coming into the darker stages. More drivers have got their lights on. We're at 20 past 8 in game time, so pretty much in sync with real time on my end. But here we go, we can see the Porsche now is getting the slipstream and go past the Ferrari, and the Ferrari's going to dive straight back in. And that's going to allow him to just try and gain a few more kilometers an hour back. But really, the Porsche is a superior car in a straight line to the Ferrari, but the Ferrari doesn't suffer from much brake fade, so it'll be really interesting to see. Look how much later he is on the brakes than the Porsche, and that's allowed him really distinctive red wheels in that car. The number 59 cars managed to go back down the inside of the number 21 Porsche, so a very, very nice little battle there that's sure going to evolve into something interesting, as the Porsche is now going to have the straight line speed against the Ferrari, coming into the right-hander where we saw that infamous contact earlier between Riley Collado and one of the Porsches, I believe. It might have been of Holler. Ward's still holding 6th position. He's 2.5 seconds down on Jacob. He's in 5th, but he's only 0.6 seconds off of Holler. So the Porsche's not running too badly. Still holding the positions from 3rd down to 7th. A very, very strong showing from them, considering I believe the majority of the grid was made up of Ford GT40s. Oh no, I lied, sorry, the majority of the grid was made up of Porsches. And the Fords were not a million miles behind at that. I believe there's about 2 or 3 less entries of Fords. Let's jump back to that lead battle then, as Jacob is slowly closing in onto Holler. This is the row of Porsches I was just talking about. You can see they're all close together. They've all got their lights on except from Ward, who's still yet to turn them on, but we're really yet into the night stages, as we can see the 2 cars weaving all over the track. They're not as close as the TV cam made it look, but you can see that Jacob's slowly reeling them in. Gets a nice line there, manages to cut the car in. You can see how much of the slingshots he gets with the slipstream, and this is going to be the battle for 4th position. Who's going to be the later breaker of the Porsches? Looks like they're going to hold it pretty even, but Holler's going to back off slightly, maybe try to get the undercut. Oh, they almost make a little bit of contact there, closing each other up. Oh, there's a number 10 car. Oh, gets very, very out of shape there. You can tell he's really pushing to try and gain back some of that ground, but maybe it's time to just play it safe. You know, he's made a mistake, and now he's going to try and make the most out of a bad situation. But 6th place is still very, very respectable. Where he qualified, I believe he was one of the lead Porsches. He was the second of the Porsches. It was Goldbach and Timo who are currently running 3rd. They managed to put their car as the fastest Porsche, but Ward was the 2nd fastest. Oh, look at them two sliding their cars out of the corner. We're still seeing nobody fly through the Martini Rossi sign yet, like it did in the famous Steve McQueen film. That would definitely be a sight to see, but whether I capture it or not, I'm not 100% sure. But once again, it's still a very, very nice battle here between the Porsches. So I'll let you enjoy this quickly. I'm going to take a short break to get myself a little bit more hydrated as we get into the early night stages of this 2.4 hour race. So the battle ever rages on between Jacob and Holler. 0.8 of a second between them as they come onto the back straight. It got very, very close for a brief second through the first sector. But you can see Holler is all tucked up in the slipstream of that 908 in front of him, as this 908 train is all about it, really. It seems like Goldbach's managed to create a bit of a gap. We've got the back marker, that's the number 66 car of Scott B we had a brief look at earlier. They're all managing to flow through the right-hander nicely. Haven't seen too many silly incidents so far. Generally it's been a pretty clean race, apart from when Felix went 3 wide down the main straight. The 2 back markers weren't too keen on letting out, and there was a bit of an accident there. But Jacob and Holler not doing too badly here. They're running for the Flyby Esports team. Jacob is currently the VRALT champion. He's venturing into Competizione quite a lot. Doing a very, very good job from what I've got in front of me here. But he's teamed up with, I should be able to tell you shortly, Eric. And Eric is also currently a champion. He's of the Automotive Legend Trophy, also in the VAR or the VRALT. So it's a very, very strong team running in the 95 car for the historic racing. They're definitely proving themselves tonight, running a solid 4th position, really mostly over raw pace, to be honest. Doing a very, very good job now, holding off Holler and Ward, who have proven to be faster in the qualifying times, and doing a really, really consistent job at this point in the race. But Holler and Ward, they're not doing too bad either, really. Ward unfortunately had the accident early on. I say early on, it was about half an hour into the race. The number 10 car went straight on at the right-hander before the final sector. Look at the compression as they go through, smashing the inside curve and trying to keep the car on camber. As we should probably take a look at the lap times through last time. So it was a 3:28.4 from the leader, that was Meister Jaeger. That was a 3:27.4 from Felix in the second of the GT40, so he's managed to pull a second back that lap to get the gap to about 2.4 seconds from what I'm seeing on the live time across the line. He's at a purple final sector as well with a 21.2, so he's the car on the move at the moment. Goldback was a 3:29.2, Jacob was a 3:29.4, and Holler was a 3:29.8. So those three all on very, very similar pace. As you can see, the track's getting ever, ever darker now. The back marker of Scott B managed to get out of the way properly and allow this Porsche train to flow through very nicely. But Ward was really the faster car. He was at 28.7, so the fastest of the Porsches at the moment. He's just got three of them in front of him he's got to try and catch up to first, and then secondly try and overtake him, which is a whole different ball cake. Ball cake? What am I trying to say? Ball game. When you're all in the same car, and yes, every car's got its advantages and its cons, but if you're all in the same car, it's really all about the driver's skill and what you can try and get out of the car, because although if you've got a battle between a Porsche and a Ford, the Porsche is going to be able to brake a couple car lengths later, but the Ford's going to be right up on you again when you get to a high-speed section. So in the Porsches, it's really just all about extracting as much as you can from the car without making the mistakes that were seen from Ward and I believe Holler as well when he made contact with Riley Gallardo earlier on. But speaking of Riley Gallardo, he's making progress through the field as we're now on lap 12, so we should see the cars coming into the pits soon. But Riley Gallardo's worked his way up from 18th when we last checked on him all the way up to 14th. So doing quite a nice job there. Really manages to get his car through the field. He's running for the Hi Racing team. You see them do quite a lot of, they do endurance. I believe they were doing a Group C Nissan like MP35 League a while ago. That definitely looked like a lot of fun. But Hi is very, very popular around the MRD scene. Riley Gallardo runs a really, really good show from what I've heard. But doing a very good job working his way back through the field, making the most of pit stops and other people's mistakes, and kind of running a recovery race at this point. Just look how sideways Holler was in the background there in the number 92 car. Really struggling to put the power down. Maybe it's time where the tyres are getting to the point where it's not looking great. But we've got a really strong 4-car race here at the Porsches. And there's even one a little bit further back, that's Stevenson. He's dropped off a little bit now, but he was really close up at some point earlier on. But they're all slowly making their way through, slowly eating the time out. We've almost been going for nearly an hour now, so we're not a million miles off that. And the majority of the racing has been pretty clean. Ooh, look how sideways that car was. That's not going to do much time. I believe that was Holler in the number 92 car. So let's have a look at Ward, see how much time Ward's going to gain from that when we have a look at the lap times come through. So Holler really didn't have a strong last sector. It was a 22.3, and Ward's actually in the pit lane. So this is going to be a first stop from Ward, and we're on lap 12 now. So we expected the Porsches to last all the way to lap 18. So maybe that's on fuel anyway, as we're looking at about 5.5 litres a lap in the Porsche. So maybe he's going for fuel already, but he's not the only one, as Stevenson pulls into the pits too. And that was one of the Ford GT40s going past. That's a number 28 car. So that is the 4th place running Ford. That's Naksadi in the number 28 ASRL car. Seems to have quite a chrome livery there. Something interesting. Don't see that every day. But the number 28 car, he's going to be joined by Shane Power. It says ASR... yeah, it's VAC, sorry. VAC, not ASRL. It's quite... So you get the position of the car in front as well, and sometimes I confuse them because I'm new to all this, all fancy graphics. I don't get any of this anywhere else I commentate. It's an absolute privilege. But you can see the last lap time round, it was a 3:28.9, and the car in front was a 3:29.4. So he's running about half a second quicker a lap, but he's 14 seconds off. So at that rate, it's going to take him 28 laps to catch up, and that's 2 pit stops, and no matter anything can happen in that time. We've got quite a good train of cars behind, so Ward's come out of the pit lane, and that's put him down to 9th. But Stevenson, how far back did Stevenson go? Because they weren't a million miles away in the pit lane, but Ward's already halfway down the straight, and Stevenson's only just coming on it. So that's really a lot of time lost there for Stevenson. Maybe a different fuel strategy. Obviously, you've got to do a driver swap in this race as well. So I'll have to move over to the driver B section. I've only got half of the, well, I'd say a good 80-90% of the entry list is confirmed, but some people didn't confirm their driver A, driver B, so the way that they were going to run their swaps. I believe you can do as many swaps as you want, but the majority of people only went for the one, as we see the Ferrari there go down the inside of the 713 Ford GT40. I believe that's a back marker, so maybe that's a back marker very much on the move. But let's head back to the lead. So Felix 987, or 789, I do apologise. He is only a second and a half now off of Meisterjäger. We're 14 laps into this race, neither driver has pitted yet, and we should be expecting the Fords to pit around the 17 lap mark. So they should be coming in anytime soon. We've got the number 33 car there, who's running a little bit slowly. As we see the brake lights come on. Oh, maybe he was thinking about going into the pit lane, but aborted. Seems like it was a dive to the right and a dive to the left, so maybe a slight strategy change there, as the car of Seppen and Koivis is in the pits. We're going to get held up a little bit there by the Porsche, I'm afraid. That's going to not do him any favours. He's now dropped about 4/10 back off of Meisterjäger in the number 9 Golf car in the lead. Not doing too great there for him. But Felix, let's have a quick look at his driver profile. So he's racing at the moment from Serbia. He's apparently been in sim racing from the late 80s. So whether that was soapbox racing, putting yourself in a box going down a hill and calling that sim racing, I'm not 100% sure. But he was fond of the very early test drive games and has been competing really proper sim racing since NASCAR 2003. And that was in the early 2000s, so around the 2004, 2005. So very, very veteran sim racer we have here in the second place VAC car at the moment. So you can see why he's giving Meisterjäger a bit of trouble here. But yeah, he's very used to running the DRM cars, the more American muscle like V8 Can-Am Trans Am cars. So it's something a little bit different for him. As we're nearly approaching up to midnight now already. So yeah, it's good to see people from all over racing in this league, as it seems like Ward had a drive-through penalty. I must have missed that, but that's quite a big blow for him. That's a second mistake really that he's made tonight. Obviously he went wide and now he's got a drive-through penalty, and he was a very high contending front runner. But we've still got an hour and a half to go. Anything can sort of happen. But it's really not looking too good for Ward at the moment. So maybe his teammate will be able to bring stuff back. But I think it's all about trying to make the most of rubbish situation for Ward's team now. And just try and bring the car home. I don't want to say that with an hour and a half to go, but it really hasn't gone his way in the early half. They're running for the bloody Wartburg racing team. That's not an insult. That's just a... Oh! Seppen and Koivisto disqualified for a swap time. That's not good for them. Well, that's their race over. That's the number 50... What car are they? They are A car. I can tell you that. What one? I can't tell you yet. But they were running quite low down from what I remember. Is that the number 29? The Ford GT, maybe? I'm not 100% sure. But we've still got about a second gap for the lead, but a very close car at the moment is going back to this very... Look at the amount of Porsches we've got here. How many are lead lap and how many aren't, I don't know. But it seems like we've got a very, very close battle here. And Jacob's all over the back of Goldback. who was the fastest driver. Oh, he's going to try and hang it around the outside there. That's not a move you want to be doing. He very cleverly backs out of it. They're going to go 2x2 here. All Jacob's got to try and do is get the better exit. He slingshots it out, hugs a tighter line. Let's jump on board as we go down the home straight. Is he going to be able to get any more time out of it? He seems to have dropped a couple tenths back. But of course, Goldback had the slipstream of that yellow Porsche that's just pulled into the pit lane as we're rapidly approaching up to midnight now. What a view that is at night. Wow, CSB really gets this game alive, doesn't it? But it's still about a second gap now to the car in front. So that's Scott B in the number 66 Ferrari. They've done their swap now for the night, so it seems like Scott drove the first hour, maybe or like the first 50 minutes. Then he's going to put Blow 66 in, see what he can do. Very sideways there from Goldback, but it seems to be working for him. Jacobs still 1.5 or 1.3 seconds back as they head on to the main straight. But let's have a look at Felix now. As Felix only 0.6 in a second behind Meisterjäger, both in 4GC40s, so we shouldn't really see any sort of late break dives, but in the slipstream we still should be able to pull him back in a little bit, as we see about 310, 315 kilometers an hour at this point in the straight, as they're up into 5th gear. So the last lap from Meisterjäger was a 328.1, and you've got a 327.6 from Felix 789. So about half a second a lap quicker, as we've really sort of been seeing from Felix all night long. He's just had that little bit of extra edge over the other drivers. Hasn't really made any real mistakes yet. As they head down into the braking zone, you've got a Porsche who's very out of shape ahead of them, and that's him spinned out on the inside of the track, and that's what Felix needed to really kind of distract Meisterjäger in front. And that's allowed him to really close up to the back now, 0.3 of a second for the lead of the race with an hour and a half to go. Absolute pitch black as we head up to midnight. And these two have been going at it for quite a while now, gaining time back, bringing it back, and then pulling it away again. I don't think there's going to be any moves here. These two really seem to know what they're doing. Meisterjäger, very experienced as well as Felix. And these two really putting on a good show for you lot tonight. So this is really the battle. THR are running the event. VAC are one of the teams who have been invited to run tonight. And you've got various drivers of all sorts of skill ranges coming. But THR, the event host, is currently just holding onto the lead by a thread as the ever-closing Felix gets up to the rear end of the GT40 in front. It's Golf versus the SCP VAC 37 car. And it will be interesting to see who can get the better run onto the main straights. I think that could be a key move heading down towards the first corner. If not, if Felix can hold this sort of ground, he'll probably keep it for the main straight just for ease. But look at the amount of extra speed he can carry. He swings to the outside. Meisterjäger's going to go to the inside as we go to the exterior cam now. And that's Felix into the lead, but it looks like Meisterjäger's pulled into the pits. So maybe that's what he was doing. Maybe he was just trying to hold up the car of Felix a little bit longer so they get maybe just a little bit of an extra advantage in the pits. But I don't think we've seen Felix pit yet, and I think he's going to have to this lap, as he'll run out of fuel if he does any more. But let's have a look at Jacob now. He's only a second off the leading Porsche of Goldback. Jacob in the 95 car has actually run a really solid race tonight so far. Really just kept his ground and done a really good job being consistent when he's needed to. The same story with Goldback and Timo. That's why they're just holding on to second place, really. But Malero in the other GT40, the lead ASRL car, he's pulled into the pits too. And that's allowed Nak Sardi in the number 28 VAC car to go up to 5th place. I don't think he's made a pit stop yet. That's the quite distinctive black and chrome and green car. Holler's currently holding on to 4th place with about a 5-second gap as they make their way through the back markers now. That's going to be a little bit of extra slipstream for Goldback. as he's managed to pull now a second, or 1.2 seconds, over Jacob down the back straight, just from having the side draft of the yellow car. What the rules are for back markers here, whether they have to get out of the way, whether they just hold their line and it's up to the faster car to go through, I couldn't tell you. But it sure seems like the yellow car is just keeping it completely pinned down the back straight. As we go past midnight now, so we're over what time it's supposed to come day again. The thing is, though, it's not going to do too well for Goldback. He's not going to be able to use all of the track as the yellow car goes off. So we should see Jacob pull back a little bit of time, maybe, as we head down into the right-hander at the end of the straight. But these two are a lot later on the brakes than that yellow car. You can put the yellow car back on the throttle, the whole car backward, just to try and get that little bit of extra time. But now it's Jacob's turn to try and get past the back marker. And the back marker seems to be pulling off line and allowing Jacob to go through. So all is good there. Let's have a look then at Stevenson. He was quite the name early on. He's only 0.8 of a second off of Malero, who I believe just come out of the pit lane. So Malero in one of the GT40s, along with the number 9 car of Meisterjäger. So Hayward and Grunstrom have done their swap. What position they're running? They're in the number 24 car, and that is the Ferrari, the Scuderia THR team. So they're running down in 24th, but they've managed to do their swap quite early on, so they don't have to do any more. But if they want to, the option is there. But that's the number 10 car of Ward, and that's really not looking pretty, I must say. Ward's really not had a good time so far this race. And his car's definitely looking on the more tatty side. But he's got one of the blue back marker Porsches behind him. That's the number 69 car. What position they're running, I don't know. But the number 60 car of Stevenson has ran a pretty solid race. He's managed to keep it all together when he's needed to. But in the background there, you can see Riley Gallardo. He's managed to catch his way back up quite well, hasn't he? So he was down to 18th, 19th, 20th place after contact with Holler early on. But he's worked he did a pit stop early. Although that might offset a strategy for the rest of the race, maybe him and his teammate being Matthias Nolli, maybe those two have come up with a different strategy and sat in the voice chat just to try and figure out, well, my car's running off the pace, I've got damage from the early contact, what if we pit early, get the damage repaired and try and offset this later in the race. So it'll be good to see what Riley can do when he gets back in the groove and starts dicing through, getting through the pack. So that looks like it's Jacob just coming out of the pits now. So he's the second place THR car. And that's Felix as well in the... I thought that was Felix in the pit lane. It won't let me click on his name, unfortunately. Why can't we click on Felix? I don't know. He's got a D next to his name. What that means? Damn. Maybe. Probably not. But I saw Nash get a penalty, so that would have been for pit lane speeding on the pit entry as he pulls into his pit box. That's the 713 car finally coming out. Let's have a look at Jacob then. He seems to kind of be in a world of his own at the moment. He's got Meisterjäger behind him, about 15. He's dropped off a lot. What's happened there? It seemed like the timing just went through the absolute roof for whatever reason. He lost about 5 seconds in one corner. Click on him, he seems to be doing alright, so not sure what's going on there. But Jaganika, he manages to go through all of the pitted cars. So we should see most of the Fords in the pits now. So this is Felix. Maybe he got a penalty on pit entry. Don't really know. Oh, he's reversing, so what's going on here? This was the fastest car on track for a very long time. Reversing in the pit lane, so maybe he overshot his pit box, I don't know. Or maybe they're going for a driver swap, not sure. But the 713 car had a little bit of room at the back now. But it seems like the grid's spread itself out. We've got Goldback Timo. They're running the number 22 car, I think. Or is that the TT7 car? It might be the TT7 car, actually. So it is. That's Patrick Goldbach and Timo 1. They're currently leading the race. As we see another driver swap complete. So this is the TT7 car. Goldbach, funnily enough, although he's driving a Porsche, he's native to the car. He is German. And he's mostly been doing vintage Formula racing. So Grand Prix 2 cars. And old sort of stuff like that. But yeah, he's definitely run a solid race. I don't know if he's pitted yet. One way to find out if he's going to pit, it'll probably have to be this lap as we're coming on to lap 18. He's holding over to the right-hand side of the track, and here he comes. Flames firing out the rear end of the Porsche. So he goes into pit lane. No pit lane penalty for him. What about Holler? Surely Holler's going to have to come in the pits, and so he does. So this is the Porsches all coming into the pits. What about Jakob? Jakob's going to be the car because he pitted last lap. So it'll be interesting to see where he's going to come out. So let's watch the two Porsches go into the pit lane now. Who's going to be the quicker car? I can't tell you yet, but they're both in the pit lane as we see one of the Ferraris go. So they're both trying to get in their pit boxes now. Seemed like Goldbach kind of stopped a little bit too early. So they're both now in the pits, and that's going to be a driver swap then for Holler. So that's going to be Valentin Konechal getting into the car. Valentin has done a lot of work for the Touring Car Legends mod. He's done a very, very good job as well in this pack, getting everything balanced. So let's see then. So Jakob is gonna get the undercut on Goldbach, who's still sat in the pit lane. So your current race leader is Jacobs. He's already pitted. And he's got a very, very solid lead, because that's going to be Goldbach coming out of the pit lane now. And away he goes. So he's lost 12, 13 seconds over the leader. Where people are going to start coming back in, I'm not 100% sure, but Riley Gallardo, for all that, he's managed to get himself up into 6th place. So, very, very nice thing from him. As we see Valentin Konechal come into the server. And it'll be good to see what he can do, as Valentin's had a very, very big part in getting this event all up together. So he's very familiar with everything. It's just trying to get the time together in the middle of the night, as we see Riley fly around the outside of one of the backmarker Porsches. That might be the number 60 car. Stevenson is now all the way down in 18th, so something's gone very, very wrong for him at some point. Whether that was a driver swap, I don't know. But he's now on the back of the number 69 Porsche. That's going to get him a little bit of an edge. Oh, very sideways coming onto the straight. And I'm going to have to take a sip of water in a minute. But that's going to give him a little bit of extra slipstream. So let's head back to your race leader. Actually, we could have a quick look. Nobody actually seems to be that close, I'll be completely honest. Let's have a look at the race leader for a little bit. You can see he's at the end of the straight, and Riley's about halfway down it. So there's not a million miles through the top pack. It's just trying to get it all back together, as it's currently Porsche, Ford, Porsche, Ford, and then the number 439 car. I don't think we've had a look at that one yet. Another Porsche, that's Raptor and Alex, the leading VA car. But well, I'm going to have a quick little break, and then we'll get back to the action very, very shortly. So, as we look at the laps last time round, it was a 3:29.0 from Jacob, a 4:17.8 from Goldback, so I'm going to presume there was a pit stop included in that. Then it's Meisterjäger and Porsche in their GT40, they said a 3:30.2. Then Ward's finally getting back on the pace, he's up to 4th position, and he set a 3:28.4, so currently he's about the 2nd quickest car on track, as that Felix Ford GT40 was very, very rapid. Wherever that ended up, that's currently running 9th. It could be good smile in the car now. It's probably better that I go for team names, as, you know, I've got people telling me that other people are in the car, and all I get is 2 names, so I'll just go off the first name, or I could go off the team name. Yeah, we've got an hour and 14 to go, so we're about halfway through this race now, and it's 2 in the morning, so not too long left of the night stages to go, but doing a good job, everybody, to keep the positions and keep the car on track throughout this night, as we see the Gulf colours of the GT40, a very, very iconic sight here at Le Mans. Come down to the right-hander at the end of the straight and power out of it with a great sound from that V8 motor. Ramming through the gears, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and then finally reaching 5th when you get to the really, really high-speed stuff. But everyone's a little bit spread out at the moment, so we'll have a quick look through the field. So Riley Galado's worked his way back up to 5th, so an interesting strategy from him early on. Some really, really quick strategy development to try and overcome the early contact with the Porsche. It's paid off quite well for him at the moment. He's running up in 5th. How staggered he is on pit stops and what he's going to have to do to really try and fight back at a later point in the race, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, he's done a very, very good job to recover his race to what he has, as he was down in 18th, 19th for a very, very long time. Slowly worked his way back up through the field with the pit stops. So that's the number 1 high racing car, THR. Then currently your leader is Raptor and Alex, apparently, but I don't believe that's true. I think it's Jacob, yeah, so it is Jacob and Goldback in 2nd, 10 seconds off the pace. So it's kind of like a 10-second gap between everybody really at the front. But we should see it balance out in the end over pit stops. So we should be able to get lap times last time round. It was a 3:28.6 from Jacob and a 3:28.3 from Goldback and Timo. And then Meisterjäger and Porsche were a 3:29.9. So the Porsche is definitely the car that's on the pace at this stage in the race. It's just going to be about keeping the car on the track at night. As you can sort of see the gap between 1st and 3rd there, there's just a couple corners between them. You know, 8 seconds and 9-second gap here and there might sound like quite a lot, but if we pause the camera here, we can see that's the lead car going through now. And that'll be the 2T7 car, the lead VAC car of Goldback and Timo. At the back of this group here, so we have the green Ferrari and number 19 going through, and Goldback and Timo. That's 10 seconds behind, so that was Savona and Tiano in the green Ferrari. Then that's the 3rd place car there of Meisterjäger in the current lead Ford GT40, and then that's the number 10 car of Ward, who's really trying to make some gaps up now. It could be Lindholm, actually. If the flags finish, I'm going to guess it's Lindholm, as that sounds like a very, very Finnish name. And they're 8 seconds down on the car in front of them, but currently lapping about 1.5 seconds quicker, so it might be about 10 odd laps, and we should see them all get up close again together. But Margar and Pitman are someone that we haven't really spoken about tonight, but they're running 7th, and I've been watching their progress through the field. They're running a Ford GT40. They've not been too bad, not been doing too badly actually. We saw them early on, I think in practice. We were watching them go around. But yeah, they've been running quite a consistent race. Definitely a contender for the top of the mid pack for sure. Their THR, how their luck's been this race, I can't personally tell you, but I've been keeping an eye on them throughout the race on the statistics table, and they've definitely been one to watch out for. They're currently running around the pace of Meisterjäger in the lead GT40, so not doing too bad at all, really. It's just about them matching their times, mid 329s, and then that should hopefully kind of drag them up throughout the grid as the race progresses. We haven't really got many battles for position at the moment, but I think it's all going to tie in when the next set of pit stops come, as we're currently on lap 20 or 21. The leader will be shortly. And we should be looking at the next round of pit stops for the Ferraris in approximately 4 laps time. The Porsches should be able to run for another 15 or so, and the Fords maybe another 13, 14. It really depends on if people are conserving their fuel or just going for outright pace and just trying to build a strategy around that. There are so many different things you can do strategy-wise in a 2.5 hour, 2 hour and 24 minutes endurance race. It's really a case of trying to adapt your strategy to the race around you, and if you've got someone that you're racing with, as this race does require 2 people, that second person isn't just going to be sat there asleep if they can see what's going on with your race for like the live time and I've got up in front of me. You know, it's really, really easy, or easier, to help build a strategy on that when you've got that second eye looking in who can see all the timings and someone to sort of watch over you. Yeah. So let's have a look at the number, or 10th position car, the number 92 car, Valentin Konechal, as he's in the car now. The number 92 THR representing Porsche 908. Coming down into the braking zone, one of the strongest places that we've seen the Porsche tonight. Not quite as strong as the Ferrari 330, as we saw a battle between them a little bit further down the grid, probably about half an hour into the race, and we could really see how much the Ferrari had the advantage over the Porsche. The Ford and the Porsche, you can really tell the difference between them. We haven't really had the possibility to see the difference between the Ford and the Ferrari. No pun intended between the movie title there. But those two will be very interesting to see. The braking distances, as the Ferrari is by far the better braking car. As I said early on in the stream, it's very much immune to braking fade, whereas the Ford is by far the weakest on the brakes. So you can kind of gauge a balance between that, as the Ford's the quickest car in a straight line, but it's the slowest car to stop, whereas the Ferrari's the slowest car in a straight line, but it's one of the quickest to stop. So, you know, your Ferrari's very good as an all-round sort of car, but your Ford's very much a plant the throttle and hope for the best car. You've got to, as we see Valentin Konechal there, get all up on the car. That's not what you want to be doing. And turn them headlights even brighter if possible so you can see where you're going. But yeah, a very, very interesting race unfolding so far, I must say, as we've been now joined by Pitman in the voice chat. So, have we got anything interesting to hear from an insider's point of view?
Yes, hi, Macroline. Yeah, 2 things. First thing, the stream is lagging. It's not that good. I have tested so much before, and it looked good. Streaming machine is able to handle the cars. It looks good. The OBS shows good values. Even YouTube says that the connection is very good. But over at YouTube it lags. So that's not what I have expected, and I'm pretty disappointed about that. But I will re-record the race tomorrow with your commentary on top, so that we have a good quality version of this race available for our viewers. That's what I want to say onto the stream. And I'm short before to get in my car. Just a few words about THR, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I found a THR 3.5 years ago. Of course, I wanted to race the GPL mod on a regular basis against well-known people, and there were no servers available at that time. And then I talked to a friend and said, hey, what about let's try to start a community, and he said, that will never work out. But I tried it anyway, and it worked out good. We grew steadily since then. We have had around 150 events since then. We had different championships with different cars, so we are not only focused on the GPL cars anymore. So we do a lot of racing, and this event is the first event, or the second event, together with other communities. We had the first one with VIC, with the guys from VIC, just a versus race, so only against them. And this is the first race where we have 5 communities on track, and it's awesome. I think the race is okay. I saw some crashes out there, some maybe unnecessary crashes, but happens. And I hope that we learn from this race, and maybe if it works out good, then we will have similar races in the future again.
Yeah, most definitely it's going to be an event to remember. The fact that you've managed to bring 5 communities together tonight really makes this something special. That's definitely going to have the word going around about it, not just in the vintage racing, or not just in vintage sim racing, but across the board. I reckon this is really going to be something that's going to be a highlight of the year.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've allowed me to commentate tonight is very much of a privilege, so thank you for that.
Yeah, and we are really glad to have you here. That's special. It's really special. So, but now I have to leave because I have to get into the car.
Okay, well, good luck on your stint.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Hey, take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. So, the 4th place car of H Ward. We've been keeping an eye on that, or I have. It was a very, very promising car. The 2nd fastest car on track for a very long time. Only really Felix in the GT40 was able to trump him on pace, but then again, Felix was half a second up the road from 2nd place in qualifying, so he's by far the driver to beat at the moment, but I believe its teammate was Goodsmile in the car at the moment, in the number 37 GT40. But if we have a look at Ward and Lindholm, they're setting 3:28 frees, and the only people matching them at the moment is Felix and Goodsmile in the Ford, but they're quite a way back, down in 8th place. They're running 3:27s. And Jacob in the lead Porsche 908 on lap 22. They're running pretty much the same time and mid 3:28. So there's a lot going on lap time wise to keep an eye on. It's definitely handy to have 2 monitors so I can keep an eye on live timing. But Ward really is the car on the move. You can see since we moved on him, he's already gained 3 seconds on Meisterjäger in the number 9 GT40 in front. So maybe it's worth jumping on with Meisterjäger. And that's for Porsche as well. Because they were a 3:30 last time round. And Ward was a 3:28.3, so he's pulled pretty much 2 seconds, just over 2 seconds a lap on the car in front of him, the number 9 car. But as soon as I say that, looks like the number 10 car is pulling into the pits again. So we thought we'd get a little bit more out of the Porsches as we see the number 19 Ferrari of Savona and Tiano fly past. They've done quite a good job actually to bring the car back up to 11th, but we should be seeing them pit soon. What I thought was going to be quite an interesting battle actually turned out to be a very, very strong in-lap from the Ward Lindholm car last time round, but I'm not 100% sure what the time was, so I don't think it ever came through. But we should now see, or we have just seen, Riley Gallardo go through, so they've managed to get that car all the way down from 18th and 19th up to 4th place, so a very, very good job from them. As I say, where they stand pit stop wise, I can't tell you, but the fact I don't think they're going to lose as much time as that timing board suggests, all the way back down to 19th, 20th, so a very good job from them to get the car back into contention. But it's definitely at the moment Jacob and Goldback who have got the lead sorted at this point, and really it's their race to lose if they can hold the pace that they have so far. But if we have a look at Jacob, you can just see that's the gap between first and fourth. First is all the way at the end of the straight, and fourth was only really just coming onto it. But as far as I can tell, it's the top 6 cars are still on the lead lap, and it's everybody else is a lap down or more after that. But just looking at the times, everyone's sort of running in their own pace. But last lap round, it was Goldback and Timo. Their car was a 3:27.5, and it was a 3:28.2 from Jacobs. So a little bit of time to be gained there, but he's 15 seconds back. And it's quite a long lap here, really. So if he's gaining a second a lap, then, you know, yeah, that might take him 10 laps. Well, that's nearly 40 minutes. So it's a very, very long race here. It's a very, very long lap. Although most of it is spent flat out, really. You've got the 2 massive long straights, and then this sort of sweeping section here, where I don't actually know if they're braking for the little flick of the left-hander, but we ran a 1971 Le Mans event very similar to this, actually, just without the sheer scale of it. Ooh, that's a very, very dodgy rejoin there. Oh no! That is absolutely terrible. That's the car of Jacob that was leading the race get taken out, or not taken out. I don't even know what to say to that. That was the Eric Marks and Jacob number 95 car. They've pretty much lost an entire lap, as that was right at the end of the lap. They've had to return to pits, or have they? And the time is now saying that they're in the lead, but I wonder if it will say that when Goldback comes through the timing zone. Someone's reversing on the pit straight and has annihilated the Ferraris. We see the Goldback and Timo car come into the pit lane. The number, it might have been the number 24. No, it wasn't the number 24. It was a red, it might be the number 7 car, yeah. The number 7 car of Danny Checkham and Legend ACB. They've now disconnected from the server, but they were reversing down the main straight, so don't really know what to say to that, but let's move on quickly and get on to a more positive subject. Where were we? Anyway, seems like Meisterjäger's your new race leader. So currently Goldback and Timo have gone in for a driver swap, as I'm going to presume that D next to their name means disconnected. And then Riley Gallardo is in the pits. He's now in 2nd place in their GT40, and they're going for a driver swap as well, with an hour to go. And Simon of the Desert and his teammate Gregory, they're in the pit lane as well. They are still, I believe they're a lap down, but they're currently showing as, yeah, now they're down in 13th, so I'm not 100% sure what's going on with the timing there. But yeah, very, very unfortunate events as to what happened to Jacob. And they're now running down in 8th. So yeah, it didn't count the lap for the timing. It just takes everybody else to go over the timing line to allow that to reset itself properly. But they've lost, as if we go back to the leader, which is Meisterjäger. They've pretty much lost an entire lap, as unfortunately the event occurred right at the end of the lap. So if it had occurred at turn 1, then you only would have really lost a corner. But if you return to pits, it doesn't count the lap, because you haven't completed all the mini sectors of the track. So it loses you an entire lap, which is extremely unfortunate for them. And I'm not sure what they can do with 56 minutes to go. It's basically ruined their entire race. And because of that, we now only have 5 laps, or 5 cars on the lead lap. So that's Simon in the Desert, and Gregory have now rejoined to the server. And that's put them in 12th. So not a bad race from them. They managed to keep it somewhere near the top 10. But probably the real talking point is Savona and Tiano in the Ferrari, in the number 19 car. They've done a very, very good job. Lead Ferrari. I don't think any other Ferrari is anywhere near them, really, as that car's very thirsty. It uses about 10 litres a lap, I believe, compared to the Porsche's 5.5. I am right, yeah. But it does have a fuel tank capacity of 140 litres compared to the Porsche's 100. So, although it uses more fuel, you've got more fuel you can put in the car, but then again, the car's heavier, so it's slower. Horsepower readings wise, I can't tell you because I don't have the cars installed. I'm just viewing this off of a team viewer thing. But from what I remember, the Ferrari does have a flat 12 or V12. There's going to be a V8 in the Ford and maybe a flat 6 in the Porsche, or some weird engine in the Porsche, probably air-cooled. But the Porsche is a lot more efficient on fuel than the Ford and the Ferrari. The Ford's kind of a middle ground in that respect, where it's only using 8 litres a lap, but it can put in 140 litres of fuel just like the Ferrari. It's just the Porsche's only got 100 litres. So there we go, we can see Riley Gallardo has completed their driver swap, and that's going to be Nolly, I'm going to presume, coming out to the pit lane now. And they've done a very, very good job to keep that car on the lead lap after the traumatic event that happened early on in the race with the contact between Holler and Van Mitchell, who are now running third in the number 92 Porsche. But it's Felix 789 has managed to get themselves, or the Felix 789 car with Good Smile Racing, has managed to get themselves back up into second after, because they went wide on the first lap at the end of the straight. They outbraked themselves and really had to kind of find a gap in the field as quick as possible to not lose too much time, but do it safely. So they've done a very, very good job there. And it's really Meisterjäger and his teammate Porsche who have done quite a good job to just get kind of the most out of the race, because everybody else has really suffered a terrible, how do I word this? Everybody else has suffered an incident or a technical difficulty or issues with backmarker. And it's really Meisterjäger and his teammate who have made the most out of that and managed to keep their nose out of trouble. I suppose you could say something similar for Savona and Tiano, really. I don't know where they stand pit stop wise, but they're running 6th in a Ferrari, which nobody else has really been able to hook up. You know, you've got the 713 car, which is a Ford GT40, then it's another Porsche, the number 60 car. The Raptor and Alex car is a... what is the Raptor and Alex car? Is a Porsche 908. Raptor and Alex are currently the lead VA team. Yeah, he's been playing the Assetto Corsa for quite a while. But he does take part in THR from what I've got on his driver info. But yeah, he seems to be quite a confident driver from what I'm reading in his driver info blog. So doing a very, very good job in that Ferrari. The Porsche, sorry, to hold that 9th position. How their race has gone, as I say, I don't really know. But looking at their times, they're currently setting 3:35, so maybe a bit of fuel saving going on. But they're only a lap down at the moment, as we've now only got three or four, maybe actually 5 cars on the lead lap, and everybody else is a little bit further behind. But it's going to be another purple sector from the Ford GT40 of Felix and Goodsmile on that previous lap, which was a 3:26.4. So I think that was the fastest lap of the race last time round. The Felix 789 and Good Smile Racing Ford GT40 have done a very, very good job there. Good Smile was a member of the VAC, as he's representing here tonight. Yeah, a good driver, a very, very strong pace. He's been racing VAC for about 2 years. Mainly, apparently, still driving with a G27, so fair play to you on that, doing a good job. Yeah, he's, as I just said, he's doing a great job tonight. You know, he had a little bit of unfortunate... it's getting to the point now where my brain's turning to mush, but, you know, we've got 51 minutes to go. I'm sure I can make it. Might have to have another little drinking break, sure. But the number 37 car doing a very, very good job tonight. Kept it on the track for most of it, kept it consistent for most of it, and most of all, kept it very, very quick for the majority of the race as well. So, good job from that team tonight. How far back is Holler and Knitchell? That's a good question to ask. Quite a way back. They're just at the end of the straight now. in their Porsche 908. Let's have a look at the driver profile on them, shall we? Okay. There we go. So, Valentin has been racing sim racing since 1996 on the NASCAR sim by Papyrus, apparently on a Macintosh 5200. So, he's been going for a while, let's say. But he was doing a lot of work with the Touring Car Legends pack, helping the balancing out with Bazza and that. He's also been running in the CRS Super Touring events as well. He did a very, very good season in 1999 in the BMW 320, one of the few drivers who was able to hook the car up that season. I believe he got about 3 wins in a row that season as well, clinching the Independence Championship. But yeah, at THR, he's managed to achieve the Class A Championship victory in the 70s touring cars, driving the Mercedes AMG 300 SEL. And yeah, just been doing a very, very good job. Quick driver, really, really sound guy. I get along with him very well, and he's been helping me out with my stuff too. So yeah, on the whole, not a bad chap whatsoever. Let's have a look at the Goldback and Timo car. They're just coming out of the previous corner. So, Goldback and Timo. Timo seems to have been sim racing for quite a while as well. Been playing Assetto Corsa since the early days, 2013 pre-release. Big tin top fan of touring cars, and mainly British Touring Car Championship. He's interested in. So, quite a not a controversial take, but a take to kind of, you know, have a second look at is rubbing is racing, and I hate pit stops, but you kind of have to make a few of them, I'm afraid, for a 2.5 hour race. But no, he's been sim racing for quite a while, coming on to 10 years now, and as you can tell, it's really paying off. He's put a lot of time and effort into it, and that's a solid 3rd place now, as that's Meisterjäger in the Golf GT40 into the pit lane, as it seems to have just been a fuel and a tyres stop, but that might be it wasn't a Holler car. What car was it? It was a car that was quite up the front. I don't know what one it was. It might have been it was a car, but it was a car that was at the front. I can't remember what one it was, I'll be completely honest. Thought that was for position, maybe not. I remember what one it was. It was the Jacob car, wasn't it? That got taken out by the back marker when leading the race with about 1 hour and 10 to go. Knew the car rang a bell, and looks like he's managed to get the gap on Meisterjäger. So looking at the lap times last time round, it was a 3:27.4 from Good Smile Racing, but this lap round, he set a purple first sector. So let's have a look at him. As he comes around, keeping the car very well planted out of the right-hander there, firing it through the gears down the back straight. And we'll soon see what his second sector is going to be like. But last lap round was a 27.4, which out of everybody in the top 10 was about 3 seconds quicker than anyone. So doing a very, very good job so far. Coming down into the final little kink, probably one of the best corners on the track. Let's flick the car into the right, cut the grass, flick it over to the left, and just let the car run out wide to the wall. It's going to be a personal best sector in sector 2. This is 1:14.6 as we come across the line. Interesting to see if he had any help with a tow at all on this lap, but his current previous best was a 3:26.4, and he does a 3:29 or 3:25.7. Very quick lap there. That's let me have a quick look. That is only 1.5 or 1 point. Really, it's a second off second place in qualifying. So he's running qualifying times, and there's still 45 minutes to go, basically. If he ran that time in qualifying, just to put it into perspective, he would have been about 6th on the grid. So he's not doing too bad whatsoever. Let's have a quick look at the Valentin Konichial Holler car. They're not even on the next lap yet, so it's really Felix and Goodsmile have pulled out a gap, and it's theirs to lose with 45 minutes to go. The number 92 car of Holler and Konichial. Holler, who ran the first stint Been doing competitive sim racing for about 6 years now, joined in 2016. And he's in the Whippleman racing team, been there since 2019. He's done he's won 3 championships at the VRLN. Done a lot of things, seems to be a general endurance driver, but just to put it into perspective, last time round it was a 325.7 from Good Smile Racing, and it was a 330.5 from Valentin Connectual, so there's about 5 seconds a lap that they're losing, but I wouldn't push too much if you've got a strong gap to go back and Timo, so there's one way to find out. Let's have a look at them. They are quite a way back, so there's approximately, well, it's saying 0.2 of a lap, as we seem to have a spinner in the background there and a lot of dust kicked up. So we see some cars pull into the pits, maybe for a little bit of a late pit stop. But we should be seeing one more stop, I think, this race. So we've got some driver swaps further back going on. That's Malero, as well as Ward. He's dropped all the way down to 28th now. Or Ward and Limburg, so their race has really not gone well for the mid part and the second half, so it'll be interesting to see how they can recover this, as it's, it started off very, very strongly. They're really the second fastest car on track for the majority of like the first 45 minutes, and then the little mistake at the right-hander went over the bank and lost a lot of time trying to rejoin, and then after that they really seem to never be able to get back in the groove, which is a shame, but definitely a notable performance early on, and one that should be remembered in this race. But yeah, Goldback and Timo currently holding third, and it's Meister Jaeger in fourth, all the same sort of names, but let's see how far back Riley Gallardo is. Oh, the Porsche number 33 car there, spinning, coming out of the right-hander before the straight. Going to spin the car around, keep it over to the right-hand side, and that's going to allow Riley Gallardo to go through. Not Riley Gallardo, sorry, it's going to be his teammate, Nolly, isn't it? And last time round, they were a 331.3, and for Porsche and Meister Jaeger it was a 537, so I'm going to guess there was a pit stop in that last lap. But that would be one to keep an eye on. But one to definitely keep an eye on is going to be the Savona-Tiano battle, which is just coming through our screen now conveniently. 3 minutes to go, there's only a second between these two. So that's going to be Nash and Machina. Let's jump onto the camera now. Not bad. It's all in there for me. Almost had it right. But there's 0.9 of a second between them now. Let's hop on board so we can see if that Ferrari is going to pull in the Ford at all. I doubt it. The Ferrari is the slowest car in a straight line. You can see he's really trying to use the slipstream from what he can. He's dropped back 0.3 of a second just from when we've dropped on, or when we've joined onto him. So you see it's about 290 from the Ferrari, and then if we go onto the Ford, you can see that's pulling 315. So I was hoping we had a rear-facing view. Yes, we do. So you can see there's about 20 km/h difference between the Ferrari and the Ford. So it'll be interesting to see though how much the Ford or the Ferrari can catch up on the braking. As I was saying earlier on, we didn't have a battle between the Ford and the Ferrari, or not the one that I caught anyways, the flames pouring out the back of the GT40. So it was 4-second gap heading into the corner. Where's it gonna be when we come out? So you can see it's closed down. It closed down to about 3.8, but seems like the Tiano car really doesn't have an answer for the GT40 at this stage in the race. Which is a shame, as they've done very, very well in that Ferrari. Nobody else really has, I don't think. The Margar Pitman car is still doing quite well, holding into the top 10 now. But Jacob still outside of the top 10 after that contact with the back marker. But we'll see what he can do. I've got to stop saying oh! That's not good. So that's the Machina car, and that's going to allow Savano and Tiano to go back through for 6th place. So position change with 41 minutes to go. Let's follow these two, because we could see how much the Ford gained, but maybe they were just pushing that much harder to try and catch up to the Riley Gallardo Ford GT40 that's a little bit further up the road. But that just shows you really, Would you rather be driving at 95% and just keeping the gap, or push that a little bit too hard and you've lost a place in another 5 or 10 seconds? So, not ideal for the 713 car, but as we saw in a straight line, he should be able to gain a lot of that time back. So we'll follow this battle for a little bit. Oh, he's taking a lot of grass there, cut the car in completely, ride the grass again all the way to the outside walls. We see the blue number 66 car of blowing the Scott B very much offline on the inside of the track, whether they've run out of fuel. Cannot tell you, but they're definitely going very, very slowly towards the pit lane, so maybe they're just nursing that car home with a lot of damage, or maybe it is a case of fuel. But Nash and Machina all over the back of that Ferrari, as I was saying, with a straight line speed. Oh, he's ran very wide there, maybe a little. But this is going to be the case. Does the Ferrari have the better brakes? Looks like it does. Look how much it manages to pull the gap. Let's have a look on board. Not a backwards camera, a forwards camera would be ideal. Let's watch the Ford drive past the Ferrari in a straight line. It's like hitting the DRS button in Formula 1. Sounds like the most exciting overtake in the world in the commentary, but really it's just a bloke pressing a button. So what, instead of a bloke pressing a button, let's have a bloke press his foot to the floor. The Ferrari's had quite a good exit. It seems like all the cars have got similar acceleration. It's just really that top end speed where the Ford can just cut through the virtual air a little bit better as he rides up to the top of 4th gear into 5th. This is really where we're going to see the Ford come into its own in the slipstream of the Ferrari. 290 kilometers an hour now to almost 300 as we sit in the slipstream, and it's really just going to be a case of move over to the right hand side of the track and drive past. What can the Ferrari do in return as we move over to the onboard then? No even attempt to go back in the slipstream just so yet, because I think the Ferrari knows that it's not really going to make much difference. It's just going to be a case of how much can the Ferrari catch back up under brakes. But if we've seen the Ford make that much progress in half a lap, you know, I can't see the Ferrari sticking with it that much. So he's already 2 seconds up the road by the end of the straight. It kind of makes you wonder, or kind of doesn't make you wonder, why so little people chase the Ferraris. It's really a lacking car in the straight line speed as we go down the gears under braking. Definitely later on the brakes on Ford, getting it stopped nicely, chucking the car in, clipping the apex, lovely. Riding the car out nice, a little bit too much power on exit, spinning up the rear wheels, but a nice little battle there for 6th place. Let's have a look at Margot and Pitman. They're in 40, they're chasing the Porsche 908 of Massey and Nico Huck. They're coming down to the end of the straight. We should see the Ford brake a lot earlier than the Porsche, and if it's brakes at the same point, probably see it go straight on. But it seems like they've got their braking points sort of figured out at this point. You would have hoped they would anyway, with 37 minutes to go. A second between, so this is for the battle for 9th. Nobody else really that close on track apart from Thomas and Jens, who looks like they have just got ahead of Jagunica. I believe they're running a 908 as well. Yeah, Jagunica are, but so is Thomas and Jens. They're running a 908, so they're both from, no I lie, one's from PA, one's from THR. But this is where we should see the Porsche pull a little bit of a gap. Through the tight twisty stuff, through the slow stuff, just got it's a lot more eager to turn in, really wants to do what the driver tells it to, whereas the Ford, from what I've heard, has got a lot of push in the front end at slow speed, but it's kind of the complete opposite at high speed. The Porsche is not very happy, but the Ford is when it's cutting through the air and really kind of create a gap. So we're 1.6 seconds back at the moment as we head through the final kinks of the track. Obviously the track would go over to the right now and you go through the Porsche curves into the final chicane, but back in the olden days there was none of that safety stuff. It was all about as fast as you could go. 2 wheels on the grass, 2 wheels on the inside of the white line. Oh, that's very out of control there, and that's into the wall for Margot and Pitman. That's really not what they did, but they did it right next to the pit lane. That's not going to be for position. Looks like one of the back marker Porsches. Are we going to see them go straight into the pit lane, or are they going to stay out? That's a good question. Looks like they're staying out, but they've got 2 very, very fast Porsches coming up behind them. So what's going to happen here is that a battle for position? I don't think it is. I believe, well, I don't know, one way to find out. Let's see what changes, as that Porsche behind is definitely the car on the moves. He looks to the inside, coming into turn 2. No move made there. As they power out of that right hander. Such a good corner that on the camber. You just let the car run out to the wall. Porsche's looking all over for a spot under braking, as he knows that's a stronger point, but is the Ford just going to drive off in a straight line? One way to find out. The Porsche's pretty good on the acceleration, and if he can hold it, as he seems to go to the inside, he's got the smaller radius of the corner to go through, and that's the position made. But what can Margot and Pittman do? Probably just sit in the slipstream and wait about 10 seconds, and they'll be pulling them back in, to be completely honest. But the number 4 car, or the number 417 car, as it seems to be split down the middle, quite a cool livery design that, like the 99 BARs at the 555 one side and Lucky Strike the other with a zip. That was quite cool, see where they got that idea from, but definitely a cool livery. But they're only sitting about 290 kilometers an hour now. It was going to be one or the other, wasn't it? And that's a lot of damage on that car after sliding into the wall at about 280, 200, well, probably about 250 kilometers an hour, really. That's definitely hindered their straight line speed, so I would expect them to pit around this lap to try and get that repaired. I think it's going to be more feasible to adjust the strategy than lose 30, 40 kilometers an hour in a straight line every lap. So that's probably going to be a couple of seconds when you've got a Porsche pulling ahead. Speaking of Porsches, there goes another one. That wasn't for position, but it's definitely a back marker unlapping itself. What car that is? It could be exactly. Oh, that's not ideal at all. Let's cut to the exterior cam, make sure nobody else gets collected at all. But it seems like that 417 car is not having as much fun as it could have been at the moment, but they haven't really lost any positions. This is just all back markers working their way through, or people who are lapping themselves once again. But who are the 2 people at 0.3 of a lap at the top of the leaderboard? Maybe we should go and have a look at them, see how far they are apart. So there goes Goldbach and Timo's car. Can we see the Holler and Valentin Knitschel car? They're at the end of the lap. So let's watch these 2, or the end of the straight, I should say. So let's watch these 2 for a little bit. I'm going to take a quick little break, and I'll leave you with some lovely engine sounds to crack on with. Okay, so welcome back to the THR 2.4 Hours of Le Mans. We're going to shortly be joined by Riley Gallardo, driving the number 1 Ford GT40, who unfortunately got collected early on. We'll have a chat with him briefly. So
Hello.
Riley, early on in the race, didn't really go to plan, did it? You had a collision with a Porsche 908.
You know, it really didn't go to plan, but right now we're happy with where we're at. We originally were going to do a double stint on full fuel. We were going to take a full tank and then pit for a full tank, but we decided to pit for about 50 liters a couple laps after we got in that crash, so try to recover that a little bit, and it was really tough to figure out where we were going to come out. I'm actually really surprised we came out in 5th. I think we were predicted to come out in 10th. So right now, we're really happy with where we're sitting. It looks like we dropped down to 6th, so I don't know who got through there, but this has definitely been a tough race, and it's really pushing a lot of people to their limits, I think. I think it almost seems like multi-class racing with the pace gaps you have in different parts of the track that, you know, I don't think you could get anything like this in modern racing where there's so much difference in certain parts of the track, and it really is something different. And I know for sure I was not ready for it. I had that huge crash. I don't know if you caught it on the broadcast through Indianapolis. I broke at my normal marker. Porsche went flying by because they don't have to brake that early and locked it up and spun it. And I think I got one other person that maybe just couldn't avoid me. But yeah, this is definitely crazy. I very much enjoy it. It's something completely different. And I'm going to be doing a 2.4 of Le Mans, modern Le Mans next week, and I have a feeling that's not going to be as memorable as this one, because this has truly been a very, very crazy and very cool race.
I completely agree with you. To commentate on it as well, and there's so much going on, there's never really a dead point, you know, there's always someone in the pit, there's always someone doing a driver swap, and especially with yourself, I always had an eye on what you were doing in the driver list, and, you know, I saw you down in 20th, and slowly saw you work your way back up through the field, and I was kind of, whenever you would catch up to someone, jump back in with you, and, you know, we were kind of watching you go back through the field on the stream, and it's been really good to watch. And with the pit stops, I think it was the Savona and Tiano Ferrari who have really done a good job, to be honest, as they're the lead Ferrari in a car that just doesn't seem to work that well around here. But they were running under top 5, and now they've dropped down through a pit stop, and you're back up in the 5th, so it's been a very, very good job from you two tonight, and really look forward to seeing more of it.
Yeah, well, I think this was definitely a Ford race. I think it's a lot easier to be just consistently fast on the straight, but I was very impressed to see the Porsches at the beginning. I actually really wasn't expecting it, because it seems like the Ferraris don't have the gear ratio. The Porsches looks like they do, so they were really able to just tuck in the slip, and I know I got the doors blown off me in the Mulsanne corner from them braking, which was very shocking to see. But it's definitely good that it seems like the cars are very much balanced. And when we were sitting on the grid with the 5-minute timer, I was listening to your commentary on, you know, the fuel economy of the different cars and, you know, all the strong points. And I think it's really good that clearly the Porsche is the most popular pick, but it's good that it's not a one-car race, and I think that's made this race very interesting, and I'm sure, I mean, watching the commentating, like, you're totally right, like, we're switching back and forth from, you know, people maybe missing the braking zone to, you know, somebody overtaking or lap cars overtaking. It really is an amazing race, I think, and, you know, great job from, I know he's not here, but from Pittman for setting this up, and especially for, you know, the amount of people we have doing this race. I think it's made it super enjoyable, but I won't steal too much time on here. I hope some other drivers are able to, you know, get on the interview and share what's happened from their side, but I definitely appreciate hosting and commentating. Makes it a lot more enjoyable. I'll definitely have to take a look at the replay and see, you know, the start again and whatever, but yeah, this has been a great event for sure.
I couldn't agree more.
All right, well, have a good night.
Very special.
Have a good night. I'll swap back. Well, we got, I think, about 30 minutes to go, so this is getting down to the wire. Should be interesting. I think we're going to be able to hold on to 5th if nothing goes wrong, but I know back cars unlapping themselves is definitely throwing in a bit of an unsure, you know, sense of where we really are, what's going on, so this should be an interesting last 30 minutes.
Most definitely. Well, you take care. Right. Have a good rest of your evening, and best of luck.
You as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that was Riley Gallardo from the number 1 car that we're watching now. He ran the first stint, and as we talked about, unfortunately got collected by a Porsche early on, but definitely made a very, very good and remarkable recovery throughout the field, and his teammate Nolly has also just consistently carried that through, and they now got their car all the way up to P5 when they were down really in nowhere early on in the race, and some very, very good strategy from them allowed them to jump back up through the field. So we're seeing a familiar sight at the top of the grid. That is Felix and Goodsmile in the number 37 GT40. They're currently leading by about half a lap as they've just crossed the line with a 3:27.4, so lapping about a second and a half quicker than the second place car of Valentin Knichel and Holler. They are the leader of the Porsche's 908 slew. It's Goldback and Timo in their Porsche 908. They're running about 3:30 at the moment, with their best lap being a 3:27.4, which actually is about a second quicker than the fastest lap of Holler and Knichel, but it's just been the overall consistency of those two that have helped them keep that second place. So Meister Jaeger is the second of the GT40s in 4th, and then it's Riley Gallardo in 5th. We should be having another interview coming in shortly. So, how's it all going tonight then?
Yeah, was going well until now.
If you don't mind me asking, I might slightly be missing what car number you are.
Number 19, Savona Tiano.
The green Ferrari.
The green Ferrari, yes.
You've been the lead Ferrari throughout most of the race,
Yep.
and I have been taking note of some of the driving and manoeuvres that have been going on, but especially the battle with the number 713 Ford GT40. It seemed like you had a lot more pace in the twisty stuff, but there's just not enough of it to really take advantage of that Ferrari. But
Yeah, I didn't want to risk everything, you know. It was just, yeah, I don't wanted to blow everything away, you know. Like keep it slow and steady, and then see what happens, no?
because the Ford in front of you almost did do that when
Yeah.
they went wide at the big Marlboro sign, too deep on the brakes, but it only took half a lap and just sheer straight line speed just unfortunately had you there. But it's been a very, very strong race from you guys tonight.
Thanks. No, unfortunately, we did the driver swap now, no? And my co-driver went out and he blew the engine up. So now we're back in the pits, no? At P17.
Well, either way, it was definitely a very notable drive from yourself, and hopefully your teammate can make the most of the remaining time to try and gain some of that ground back. But yeah, I've definitely taken note of that, and it's been a very, very good run here from you guys drive around.
Thanks. I mean, with the Ferrari, it's not that easy, no? Because it's a clear outsider, no? Outpaced.
Yeah, you guys have definitely been the fastest of all the Ferraris tonight. I don't know where the next one really is. It might be Hayward in 20th. Yes, it is. So you're still, I believe you are still the leading Ferrari. I should be able to tell you actually. It's actually the Bibber Bordenut car.
Okay, in P16,
16th place of the lead Ferrari, the number 59. But you guys, depends how quickly you can get that car repaired, but you've definitely got a good chance of getting back out there and trying to make a little bit of a recovery out of this with such short time to go.
Yeah, I hope we don't have to pit anymore then, no? Maybe.
Fingers crossed. 20 minutes, you should be okay. Yeah.
Yeah, just make the maximum out of it. I mean, I'm still happy to finish it without some incident, you know. It was clean racing, so this was my goal. My goal wasn't to win, no. Top 10 would have been like the bonus of the bonus, you know.
Yeah. You've got to be very realistic, and you've got some very, very quick guys in here who do endurance racing very often. And if this isn't something that you're usually dabbling your fingers in, you know, you've got to, you know, as I say, you've got to be a little bit more realistic. And the fact that you've done what you have tonight, you know, you've got to be proud of that. And you've done a very, very good job in the early and middle parts of the race. It's just a shame it's come to what it has now. But it's just try and make the worst out of a bad situation. And I'm sure you guys will be able to do that.
Yeah, I hope so. Like you said, this is my first endurance race online. No? I mainly did some short races, like 20 minutes or so. This is totally different. No, this is a whole kind of different experience, and yeah, I think we managed it well. No, even my teammate, he gave me some advices, via headset and so on. No, so it's yeah.
Mm.
I'm still proud of him.
Well, you have a very, very good rest of your night. Best of luck to you all, and hope
Thanks,
you can
yeah.
get that car repaired in time.
Yep. Thanks. Enjoy the rest of it.
Will do. You too.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Okay, so that was the green number 19 Ferrari entry. Seems like they had an engine blowout and we must have missed that. But that's why they've dropped down so far in the field. Everybody else seems to be quite spread out. It's still the Felix Good Smile racing car, the number 37, out in the lead by 0.2 of a lap over Sebastian Holler in the Valentin Kanichel car. Only 3 cars now on the lead lap, as far as I'm aware. It might be 4, actually. It could be 5. Either way, it's a certain number. It's quite a small number of cars on the lead lap as we have a look at the Meisterjäger and Porsche car, number 9 Golf livery. Great car to look at. Come down into turn 2. You can see he's hard on the brakes, flicks the car into the corner. Squares it up on the throttle, flicks it in again. You see a little bit of correction. Mid-corner, powering down to the second Dunlop bridge. Hard on the brakes, down the gear, into second. Flicks the car in 4-wheel slide. Maybe a little bit too much of a drift mid-corner, but keeps it all together. And that looks like a very, very quick first sector from them there. But they're still 21 seconds down on the Goldback and Timo car that's ahead. But it seems like, as I've just said, we're very, very spread out throughout most of the grid. It's just going to be a case of who can bring the car home. Unfortunately, the number 19 Ferrari is down to 21st now, so not looking great for them about getting that car repaired. But we'll have a look at the Valentin Kanichel Holler car. As they're now 17 seconds off the back of the lead Good Smile Racing car. Last time round, the Good Smile Racing car was a 3:37.5. They didn't pit that lap either, so must have either run into the back marker troubles. We see a blue back marker get out of the way very promptly, very well there. But the Kanichel car was a 3:28.6, so he's gained about 9 seconds in that previous lap. We saw briefly it was about a 17-second gap. So overall, could be catching. We'll have to see next time round. But it was a very, very slow first sector from the Good Smile Racing car, so that does make me think that the car was in the pits. But unfortunately, the timing hasn't told me that. But as I say that, they've just set a new purple last sector. So that last time round was a 4:13.5, so definitely was a pit stop. But they've just crossed the line. Let's see what the Valentin Kanichel 908 can do. Last sector, they were actually quicker through sector 2. Sector 3 was unfortunately half a second off, but they were half a second quicker sector 2. So I don't think they've lost too much time overall. There's about a 20-second gap between first and second. But seems like at the moment the gap is quite consistent. Looking down the timing here, everybody does seem to be quite spaced out, as I've been saying. There seems to be a lot of disconnects down the bottom, so maybe that is retirements. So that would be the ASRL car of Malera and Nort. The Ward car seems to have finally retired. I will confirm that on live timing quick. But the Ward car doesn't seem to be on the server anymore. So I guess that was a retirement from them after a very, very strong early beginning to the race. But yeah, looking pretty good overall. It's been a very, very interesting evening. I've very much enjoyed commentating it. It's, as I've said, it's an event to remember. My commentary does definitely need to develop, personally. I need to stop saying but yeah. Nah, I've very, very much enjoyed it tonight, and it's been a very, very good race to commentate. And thank you to everybody who's been watching. I haven't had the live chat up, but from what I've gathered, it's been you need to stop doing that. It's been a very good. It's been a very good atmosphere in the chat. So yeah, currently your race leader is Good Smile Racing and Felix and number 37 GC40. Oh, that's a very sideways 908. Luckily Valentin manages to get on the brakes promptly and keep that front end nice and clean to get the front aero up. Not sure who that was. It was a yellow car, a 908. That could have been a yellow 908 probably. I haven't got the full entry list up, so yeah, this 2 hours of commentary is definitely taking its toll on me and my voice. How much I'll be able to talk tomorrow, I don't know. But it's definitely been worth it. I've very much enjoyed myself too. And I'm sure most of the drivers here have too. Very clean lap so far from Valentin. Looking at the sector times, it was a 151.5 from the Good Smile Racing car, as it was a 151.9 from the Knitchell car, so about 4 tenths down in the first sector, but that is to be expected considering the Ford is a very much a straight line speed car. So yeah, the first sector is going to take you about a minute and 50, which is probably going to be somewhere down the back straight. So that explains why the Ford is a little bit quicker, as the Porsche would make up for a little bit of time in the first sector. Look at the amount of speed they're carrying through there, holding fifth gear, 270 kilometers an hour. Very, very quick. So the sign from Felix, Good Smile, with number 37. Oh, as we see Valentin come into the pits with 14 to go. That's not ideal. Where's Goldback and Timo? There we go. Goldback and Timo are just about heading to where the Porsche curves would be. How quickly can the Holler Knitchell car get back up to speed compared to the Goldback Timo car? Because the Goldback Timo car is going to be a lot quicker down the straight. It's going to have a lot more speed into the first corner than the Knitchell Holler car. So let's have a quick look at them. Where are they going to be? Oh, they're just coming out of the pits now. This is going to be very, very close. The Goldback Timo car is just coming down pit straight now. There's going to be so much more speed from that car heading all the way around turn 2. Valentin's got to build it all back up. He's at 200 kilometers an hour. And if we have a look at Timo, let's pause the camera here. How long is the gap? We're looking at about 5 seconds between the two, with not long to go whatsoever. This could be getting very, very interesting. 4 seconds between them. Best lap for the Goldback Timo car has been a 3:27.4, and the best lap from the Holler Knitchell car was at 28.2. So technically there is more pace in the third place car, which is the VAC entry, but I'm going to presume Valentin has fresher tyres and a lot less fuel. One way to find out, this is going to be the battle to watch, I reckon, before the end of the race. But then again, the Raptor and Alex Porsches caught up to the Massey and Nico Porsche, number 60. They're only 4 seconds in between them. There's 3 seconds in between the Thomas and Jens and the Snacks 972, number 69 car. What number is the number 69? Or car is the number 69 car, I should say. That is a Stacks and Cooley. Place are they running? 13th. That is Porsche 908. I should have found that a lot sooner, personally. But yeah, as expected, the cars are all going to come together at the end of the race through the balance. So yeah, they might be a little bit all over the place throughout the race, but the whole idea of the balance of performance of this event was to allow the cars to be in the exact same place, all very, very sideways there from Valentin. Maybe he's still not got his tyres quite up to temperature, because we've got a very laggy stream on my end. But they're 70 seconds off the leader, so nothing they can really do there, unless the Felix and Good Smile car runs into some very serious back marker issues with 10 to go. 26 cars still running. The Savannah and Tiano car still in the pit lane. Whether they're still repairing that engine or this is a separate pit stop, I'm not sure. But the gap between Goldback and Timo, the session's just ended for the stream on my end, so I'm now out of. I don't have access to a stream now. Let's try sort this out. Okay, so I'm back on. There we go. So I'm back on the stream. Got an idea of what's going on now. Let's get rid of that. Right. There we go. Right, so how are we? The Knitschel and Holocar last time round was a 4:01, but remember that included getting back up to speed from the pit stop and all of the pit stop's time. Last time round was a 29.1 from the back Timo car, which is around the same pace that the Knitschel car was running. However, I didn't see the... Okay, maybe I was just a little bit blind, but it seems like the Knitschel car has gained a little bit of time over the Goldback Timo Porsche. So the 2T7 car struggling to keep up with the 92 car at the time being. But further back, we've got 2.4 seconds between the Raptor and Alex car. That's the battle for 7th, and there's 0.9 of a second between, once again, the Jagunica car keeps coming back up. There's 0.8 of a second now between them for the... This is the battle for 12th against the number 69 Porsche, which we haven't really looked at that much race. The number 69 car is powered by Stax and Cooley. Those two, see if I can tell you anything about them. Stax I can. Stax, he's a UK driver, and he's been racing since 2020 on the Assetto Corsa, so I'm going to presume he was a lockdown sim racer. I managed to get back into it, but he used to race on the old Live Speed games many moons ago, around 2012, and he's mainly a VAC, or he's representing the more of the VAC, but so is Jagunica. And he's looking for the outside now. There's only 8 minutes to go. Don't think the outside's going to be the optimal move here. But Stax is holding the inside. This is a very, very good little battle, this. But looking back further to the front, Goldback and Timo's got that gap down. Or it was down about 4 seconds briefly, but now it's up to 5 or 6 again. Could this be the move for 12th place? The number 69 car holds it around the outside. The Neo and Jagunica car seems to be playing it quite safe at the moment, because they know they've got 8 minutes, which is probably going to be another 4 laps of Le Mans here, as time's rolling back round to midday again. We're at 1 o'clock as these two head into the final section. Closest battle on track at the moment, apart from the Ronnie and Stefan, the number 438 car. They're managing to catch up to the Savona and Tiano Ferrari, which is finally back out on track after a major engine repair. Very wide there, unfortunately, from Stax. This could be a good time to get on board, see how much extra speed the Jagunica and Neo car can carry. Seems to be about 0.7 at the moment, but 0.6, slowly reeling them in with the slipstream as well. We fly past a few cars in the pit lane, heading into turn 1. Up the hill we go. Try and use a little bit of the camber of the corner. See him running a little bit wide. You see he's having to let off the throttle, holding 4th gear. Maybe up in the 5th, nah, holding 4th as we head down the hill. Look how much later Stax locks it all up, gets it out of shape. Stax hits the inside wall now, it's him completely offline. Could this be the manoeuvre now as we head into the right-hander before the right? One way to find out. Seems to have got it done, but Stax is going to cut the car in nicely. Look how wide Jacunica's run it, and surely Stax is going to get a better run now onto the straight. Amazing stuff with 6 minutes to go. These two absolutely nose to tail. Wow, what a race as we're riding into the top of 4th gear, up into 5th at 8,600 RPM, 270 kilometers an hour now. These two absolutely side by side, heading down the main straight. seems to have a little bit of a weak internet connection, either my end or on the server end. Listen to the sound of that. I don't know what's going to happen here. Are they going to try and go side by side? Don't think that would end too well. Stax is still holding the lead. Oh, one car's very well off. He's off into the sand, and surely that's going to allow Stax to carry a little bit of extra speed with a lost some as he cuts back over to the left-hand side. Are we going to see a late-hand dive at the end of the straight? No, we're not. A little bit squirreling on the braking, seems to have got the car stopped well though. What can the Junica Neo car do? How close are we? We're pretty close. I think what Stax needs to do is really just drive the car down the middle of the road. That's what I'd be doing. I wouldn't be weaving, I'd just plant the car in the middle and that way you side. And once you're committed to that, you are absolutely committed. So we should see him brake shortly after this little right-hand kink here. We go down the gears, 5th. Down we go into 4th. Into 3rd. See how much the cars rely on the suspension and the tyres to get them round. No real aero on these. Oh, very, very good line there from Stax. As we head into the right-hander, braking at the 100-metre board, down in the 2nd, down in the 1st gear. Number 69 car gets the better drive off the corner. Up through the gearbox once again. He's only 8 tenths now off of the back of the number 69 car of Stax and Cooley. Great sound. Slowly reeling them in, just running that slightly tighter line. Also the slipstream is going to help a little bit here. No one is great. What do they do for here? Dip 2 wheels. Flick the car over, run it all the way out quite that close, and that's going to allow Stax and Kulich to just get a little bit more. You can see the delta going up. It was about 0.7 when it went up to 0.8, now we're at 1.1. But you can see now the slipstream slowly helping him. He's not losing time to get up to the higher speeds. How's turn 1 going to go? He's gone for an inside line. That means he's going to run it wide on the exit. Stax seems to try and get the car turned in a little bit sooner, or a little bit later I should say, sorry, so now brake hard, probably maybe the 2nd or 3rd hardest braking zone on the track. He obviously carries so much speed after a really long straight and carries as much of it as round as possible for turn 1. And that's another Scott B and Blow 866 infringement for pit lane speeding. They've had that quite a few times in this race. That's the number 66 car. But we're now 1.1 seconds behind as we head onto the straight. How much is the slipstream going to help? See, it doesn't seem to be helping too much. They're slowly pulling them in. Power shifting and stuff like that is really something you want to try and get into when you're at a point like this and you can just play with that little bit of extra RPM if you can afford the engine damage. Hold the shifter down, or hold the throttle down and slam it in the gears with the clutch. You'll get a little bit of a kick. Why Junica isn't, or Neo isn't sat in the slipstream right now, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe they're at the top of the RPM limit in 5th. Seems to be that way. But slowly reeling them back in, 8 tenths of a second, 7 tenths. Holding it around that sort of mark, and it's all going to be under brakes. We've got 2 minutes to go. These two are by far the closest people on track. There's a 5-second gap between Massey and Raptor. That's the battle for 7th. Closest after that was Goldback and Timo, who dropped another 5 seconds off the back of Vantic and Etchell and the Holler Porsche, the number 92 car. You can see that Neo was that little bit later on the brakes, but unfortunately mine's frozen. Let's see where we end up in. Okay, coming out the corner, Mine's caught back up, seems to be having a little bit of latency issues here. Gap is still under a second. This could get very, really interesting with a minute to go. They're probably going to have one more lap. It all depends on where Felix and Goodsmile is on track, on how much further they've got to go. Has everyone counted? Really, you're going to want an extra 2 laps of fuel, because if the timer goes to 0 and Felix and Goodsmile have just crossed the line, then that's going to mean another 2 laps. That's not going to mean, because I'm going to guess it's an extra lap. I'm not 100% sure. But you really want an extra 2 laps of fuel, so it's going to be a case of who's accounted for that, who hasn't. Very, very sideways there. That's not the exit of the quarter you want to need. The gap's now about half a second. Kunos and Neo is really catching up with Kulik's 972 car now. Both running the 908 Porsche. You can see there's trying to hold the middle of the road. This is going to be really intense here. There's either going to be 1 or 2 more laps for these two. But definitely the most intense battle on the track at the moment. Maybe he's pulled back a little bit, trying to slingshot the car for rear. Look how close he was to the inside wall. Not as good of a run though as Stax and Kulich in front. Those two have managed to pull about half a second just through one corner there. I think they're just going all or nothing, so they've got 12 seconds to the car behind them. So one little mistake with 10 seconds to go really isn't going to cause them that much trouble. But let's have a look at the Felix and Goodsmile car then. They are currently on the back straight and the timer is about to click to 0. So let's see what happens here. Last lap, okay, so when this car crosses the start-finish line, the Felix and Goodsmile car, that is going to be the race over. So Sebastian Holler and the Knitschel number 92 car is about half a lap behind. And it's pretty much a 10 or 20 second gap anywhere between them. So all the way down to 5th, and it's another half lap behind for the 713 GT40. Then Raptor and Alex have also done a very, very good job. The highest place VA car, the number 439. So we see the 37 car get past the number 64. That is the Fisken and Valentin car, not to be confused with Valentin, who's running on the 92. Haven't seen much of them this race, but they've managed to keep it all together. As I believe we've had, if it says down to 32, I'm going to guess we've had 6 times this evening. But it could be all the way down to 35, as I believe 35 people did sign up. However many turned up, not sure. But at the moment, we currently have 27 cars running after, or 26 cars running after 2 hours and 24 minutes. We see a very, very nice drift there from the Felix and Goodsmile car, and that's what you can see. That's the 6th place car there behind. That's the number 713 for GT40. So you can see that the Felix and Goodsmile team have lapped everybody up to the number 6th place car. So there's only 4 other cars that they haven't lapped in this entire race, and that is definitely something to write home about. So you can see these two now just coming up to the final part of the track to finish off their race this evening. Cracking job from them. Great teamwork to adapt the strategy. Little bit of a mistake early on when they went straight on at the end of the straight at the first lap, not getting their braking right, but an impeccable recovery. Amazing lap times, managed to get the time down to a 3:24.9 in the end. A 3:24.9 would have been good enough for 3rd on the grid, and they've managed to do it in the race. So well done to Felix and the Goodsmile Racing team for absolutely annihilating it tonight and winning the THR 2.4 hour of Le Mans. Let's have a quick look at the battle then. This is the battle for 12th place. This was the Stax and Cooley 908 versus the Kunika and Neo 908, both representing VAC. There's 0.8 of a second between them, but also looking further back, the Costo and Nick Hill number 21 car. There's only 2 seconds between that and number 28 Chrome 4 GT40, who we had a brief look at earlier on. These guys, absolutely amazing stuff. As we see the number 6, number 7 car, and you can kind of get an idea of where he was. Checkered flags. I don't think it's going to be enough. The Stax and Cooley's car done enough to hold on to 12th place this evening. An absolutely amazing job from them to finish, or amazing job from Stax and Cooley to hold on to the 12th place spot tonight. So let's see Valentin Knitschel now. He's just going to be taking 2nd place. A very, very good drive from them after contact early on. You can see the number 19 Ferrari going again after a very strong midpoint of the race. But they're now down in 25th, unfortunately. But there we go. That's the Holler and Knitschel car coming in home in 2nd place. Great job from them. Next up's going to be Goldbach and Timo. they weren't too far behind. They were very, very close at the end of the pit stops, but unfortunately couldn't quite hold on with Vance and Knichel having that fresh set of tyres. So great job from them to get the final spot on the podium. Then the Meister Jaeger and Porcu car comes home in 4th. The second of the GT40s, so great work from them. But probably one of the best talking points of the night, the Riley Gallardo car with Nolly in their number 1 GT40. Absolutely great recovery from them, all the way back in 20th on the grid after contact with a Porsche early on. Great recovery, great strategy work from them to make the most out of this race. And that is pretty much everybody home. An absolutely amazing evening tonight. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in. I'm sure we'll get a lot of post-race interviews, but I'm probably going to leave that to Pitman as I need a very, very good rest. A cracking job to everybody this evening. An amazing event that's been put on by TH Racing. I'm sure there's all the correct affiliate links in the description that you need to get involved in anything similar if they run it again in the future, but if they could put something together like this, I'm sure they could put together anything in regards of sim racing. So, an amazing job. That's your lead winner, Felix and Goodsmile. 146 minutes, 17 seconds, 8 tenths. 1 minute 21 ahead of the Holler and Knichel number 92 car. The top 5 within 2 minutes of each other, so very, very close stuff. But when Pitman jumps in the voice chat, I shall hand it over to him, and I'll let the honour of finishing off the night, as I am absolutely knackered. So, amazing job from everyone. Unfortunately, that's Flying Tiger and TC Tim apparently disqualified for missing swaps. So that's something interesting for the end of the race. And also Scott and Blow 66. That's another penalty for them. They really didn't have a great evening tonight in the number 66 car. A lot of penalties, a lot of stuff that could have gone better for them, but I'm sure it will be better next time. And an amazing event tonight. Honestly, amazing, brilliant. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in and given some of your time to watch this. Thank you to TH Racing or THR to let me commentate. It's been a while, and I need to stop saying I know. So, yeah, that's everybody home. Everybody finished. 5 people ended up on the lead lap. And then another 5 after that. 1 lap down. And then the majority of people were about 2 laps down. So, yeah, a cracking job tonight to everybody who helped organise it. Everybody who balanced all the cars. And this has really been a spectacle to remember in the whole regards of sim racing. Let's have a quick look at your lead car then, or your race winner. That was the number 37, Felix 789, and the Good Smile Racing Ford GT40.